Good evening and welcome to Year One Racing TV in partnership with Alpha Live. It's the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series, rounds 17 and 20 from Laguna, Seca. I'm Dan Blake, and alongside me in the commentary box today, delighted to welcome Andy McEwen to Year One Racing TV. Andy, you looking forward to your first MX5 experience here with the BSR?
I am very much, and thank you very much for having me, Dan, and everyone. It's been an adventure getting me here, but really excited about this. I am a relative newbie to this whole world of sim racing, but Mazda MX5 racing I'm pretty well versed in. So really looking forward to some great racing action this evening, and I'm sure I'm going to learn an awful lot as we go along as well.
Yeah, and as we see, thank you for joining us again, Andy. It's a privilege to have you with us. We're just now into the qualifying session for these drivers, and there was a lot of action last week, and we do have quite a fair few drivers who have been excluded from the qualifying session. The drivers that you will not see in this session will be Aaron McGregor, James McRitchie, Mick Barry, Ryan Moles, Daniel Hunt, Vincenzo Amico, Sam McAleer, Stuart McAleer and Stephen McAleer, Nathan Davis as well, who has a Grand Slam of penalties. He's got to excluded from qualifying, so we'll start from near the back in that one. Then has to have a pit start in races 2, 3 and 4. And that was a result of an exclusion that he received last week for contact with Ralph Cullinan, partly for that one, which saw him stripped of his third place. Mikey Key promoted to the podium. There are also 2 exclusions for Ryan Moles, the frantic racing driver. We also saw the massive accident at race 3. That was judged to be the fault of Mick Barry. Stuart McAleer was originally pinged for it, but he won his appeal against the decision, and it's Mick Barry who's copped the penalty for that one. Vincenzo Amico also had an exclusion for contact with Ben Sharp at the bus stop in the first race. James McRitchie also for an incident at the top of Radion. And also say McGregor, Ryan Moles had 2 exclusions, and Daniel Hunt. So there was quite a bit of work for the stewards to do following last week's meeting.
I'm resisting the temptation to say that's typical MX5 racing, but we know how close it can get out there, and these Mark IV MX5s produce the same sort of close quarters racing that we've seen from the previous models as well. But hopefully they've all learned from that last time out, and we should get some good hard racing here at Laguna Seca, but hopefully a bit less of that contact. It's still a quick circuit, it's still unforgiving as well, so if you do start banging doors, it's quite easy to find yourselves in a tyre wall at best, possibly even a concrete wall if you're really unlucky. So hopefully the drivers will have that in mind, and the fact that they've got 4 races tonight, there's no point going out there on the first lap of race 1 and bidding people off straight away. You've got to try and have a little bit of patience tonight.
As we say, you have 4 races tonight, so they will have plenty of time to make their moves. And as you look at qualifying at the moment, it's actually Year 1 racing driver Ben Sharp, currently on provisional pole position of 138.833. Second fastest is Peter Van Gool for Momo, just under a 10th, 0.62. And then David Ward in third place. Championship leader Jamie Ayres he was in 4th, but it's been relegated down to 4th. And we got changes at the top as well. Movano's James Sharp has now gone quickest with a 138.362.
As you'd expect early in the session, lots of drivers immediately starting to put in some quick times. Many of them have been practicing for the last couple of hours or so, so they should, in theory, be able to jump straight in with some quick times. It is the pair of Sharps at the front, though, as you said. James Sharp quickest. He's got nearly half a second in hand over Ben Sharp at the moment, and then it's Pete Van Gool, Chris Knox and David Ward at the moment, rounding out the top 5 in the times. It's not the longest of laps, this Laguna Seca circuit, though, so you would expect those times to be tight, and indeed they are. The top 8 at the moment are covered by less than 9/10 of a second.
And that's just MX5 racing at its finest, as we've seen the BSR Pro Series that we do have. Very close action all the way through the grid, and even as far as the AMs go, the top AM driver at the moment, Ryan Main, in 10th overall. We've got Andy Maxwell second in AM, 11th, and Craig Jones is 12th at the moment, third of the AM. So the AM drivers also right up there amongst the mix, and that's the great thing about the BSR Pro Series, is that we have the pros and the AMs, even though they're not the quickest drivers on track, they still have something to race for.
Yeah, that's right. And some of them have been right up there at the sharp end throughout the season, haven't they? Getting outright podiums at some points. So they may be classed as AM drivers, but that's one of the joys of Mazda MX5 racing. If you're in the pack and you've got good racecraft, then you can sometimes pick your way through the carnage and get yourself a good outright result. Another new fastest lap, by the way, set by James Sharp. We watched him do it as well on your screen. The red and black car hits the brakes into turn number 1. He only improved by a few hundredths of a second, but he is now just over half a second clear of everybody else, and he did his nearest 3 rivals all in the pit lane at the moment. Ben Sharp, Pete Van Gool and Chris Knox all in the pits. David Ward is still out there 5th quickest, but quite a few of the top 10 drivers in the pit lane, maybe for a mid-session breather. We've had just under 8 minutes gone. Andy Maxwell rotates down at the first hairpin, and Andy Maxwell has dropped outside of the top 10 as well. In fact, he's just gone down to 14th place. So he really, Dan, could not do with this spin. He needs to get back out there, try and find himself a clear bit of track, which is easier said than done, because we'd expect him to be troubling the top 10 by this stage.
Yeah, Andy Maxwell, one of the top AM drivers in this championship, and there are a lot of MX5s in this one. We regularly getting grids of 30 to 40 MX5s, quite reminiscent of what we're seeing in the UK club motorsports scene, with championships in the UK having similar numbers. And as you say, it's going to be a really good weekend of a good meeting of racing. And as you say, we're just done the midway part of the session now, and James Sharp is quickest. As I say, McAleer up into 2nd place. That is Stephen McAleer, the driver from the IMSA Pilot Challenge, racing in the GT4s in America. They took the first race, which was at Daytona, supporting the 24 hours, and didn't actually get to start that race. Problems with the car meant he didn't get to have a run out, but it's great to see that we have drivers like Ben Sharp and Stephen McAleer, also Chris Knox, drivers at the top of real life racing, coming to join us on iRacing.
And that lap for Stephen McAleer sort of came out of nowhere. He was outside the top 15, I think, when he set that lap time. Did get within a quarter of a second of pole position, but then James Sharp just flexes his muscles again, just proves that he's still got a bit more in hand, and improves again with a 1 minute 38.1 to go just under half a second clear once again at the top. We were watching Craig Jones. There's Stephen McAleer, though. He's about to come through and complete another lap. He's heading into this very tricky but very important final corner, one of the tightest corners on the track. Got to get a good exit, because you can see you're accelerating uphill over the start finish line. Is this an improvement for Stephen McAleer? He crosses the start finish line now, and it is not an improvement in the end, so he'll stay in 2nd place with Ben Sharp back out on track now, looking to try and reclaim that front row position from him.
I think there's some bad news to come though for Stephen McAleer, maybe a slight oversight on his part. He is one of the drivers who is actually meant to be excluded from this qualifying session, so he may take 2nd on the grid in the qualifying session, but he may be forced to start from the pit lane, as he isn't actually meant to be out in this session.
It's interesting. So might he find himself maybe incurring the wrath of the stewards once again for venturing out into a session that he shouldn't really be taking part in? I suppose he's showing that he's got good pace at least, so he should be able to move through the order from the back of the grid, which is where he should be starting the race. He's got good speed, but certainly not endearing himself to the stewards by making his way onto the track in this session.
Hasn't raced with us for a couple of weeks, so he may not have been aware that he had to set the penalty. Someone who is very aware, James Sharp, another fastest time, a 1:38.023, and in a field that is so close, half a second just shows the level that James Sharp is currently at the moment.
Next 9 cars are separated by a second, and he's already got half a second on the field. So James Sharp, what's also impressing me is that he keeps on getting quicker. He didn't just bang that quick lap in at the start of the session, but he had more, and then he had some more, and then he had some more, and he's got quicker and quicker and quicker. He's almost into the 1:37s now, which is a very, very rapid time around this tricky circuit. So James Sharp definitely seems to be one of the favourites. But now Matthew Emery, we were following him through the final corner. Matthew Emery improves, and he goes onto the front row of the grid ahead of Stephen McAleer, only 0.3 of a second off pole position. So is this the man who maybe is going to challenge James Sharp for that pole position?
Matthew, speaking of the championship points, following that, we're now into round 17 that we're about to start. So we've got 17, 18, 19 and 20. And then the Pro Championship is Jamie Ayres, who leads with 1,403 points. He has 6 wins this season. Kip Stevens is 2nd on 1,243 points. Steve Hefford, 3rd on 1,115. Mick Barry is Top Am, and also 4th overall with 1,112 points. And rounding out top 5 in Pro is James McRitchie with 1,070 points. And in the AM, it's Mick Barry, as we said, he's top at the AM Championship on 1,112 points. Craig Jones is second on 1,065, with Alan Toon in third on 991. Andy Maxwell, we saw him have his moment earlier, he's actually fourth in the AM Championship with 949 points. And Roger Morton rounds out the top 5 in the AMs with 912. And in the Teams Championships, it is the Momo team with 3,371 points. In second place is Safeguard by Result on 2,642 points. Then we have the Result Clothing team on 2,628. I don't have the fourth team written down. Do you have that one, Andy, for fourth in the Teams Championship there?
Yeah, I have that as a Work Guard by Result Clothing with 2,568 points.
And then Year One Racing in fifth with 2,451. So just missed out that one. But that's our Teams Championship. And in all 3 championships, things are very close at the moment. And we are still in the very early stages of the season. This season goes well over 100 races. It goes from... It's almost a whole year season. It goes from March pretty much all the way to when the racing season was scheduled to finish, or October, November time. So plenty of time, and consistency rewards more than anything in this championship.
Yeah, definitely. With so many races on the schedule, it's not necessarily all about winning all of the races. I mean, if you look at Kit Stevens in second place in the championship, hasn't actually won a race yet, but he's still there P2 in the championship. He's had his 4 podiums, lots of top 5, lots of top 10s as well. And yeah, we see time and time again that sometimes the driver with the most race victories is not the driver clinching the championship come the end of the season, because it's all in good winning the races, but if the races you're not winning, you're finishing outside of the top 10, then over the course of the season you're not really scoring enough points. We're following Ben Sharp, meanwhile. He's heading up into this most famous corner on the circuit. The corkscrew gets it all wrong, though. Just as I said that, gets a wheel, or 2 wheels in fact, onto the dirt, and there's not much grip there, Ben, so he loops the car around, finds himself thankfully pointing back in the right direction, and he's near the end of a lap, so he may as well carry on and try and start another one, but he won't be too happy to find out he's just been dumped out of the top 5, because who's that that's improved? Steve Hefford, I think, is the one that's improved. Steve Hefford, third in the championship, another driver looking for his first victory of the year, and he's just moved up into 5th place at the expense of the spinning Ben Sharp.
Yeah, first commentary session for Andy McEwen in qualifying, and the curse of the commentator on Ben Sharp. It didn't take long. Steve Hefford, a driver who's been very unlucky not to win a race this season, is actually in his own mistakes. There were 2 races he could have potentially won at Barber a couple of weeks ago, but Steve Hefford not able to get there on that occasion, and that first win is looking closer and closer each week. He was in the mix again at Spa, but couldn't just quite get that win. So I think Steve Hefford will be one to watch out for in this meeting.
And we're watching Chris Knox now, just going past a slower car across the start-finish line. He's 8th at the moment, and that lap time will not be enough to improve his position. Quite a lot of the top sort of dozen drivers or so have headed for the pit lane. James Sharp, our provisional pole sitter, is still out there. Adrian Hendy, who is 10th quickest, he's actually the next driver that's still out there. So all of the top 10, with the exception of James Sharp, have decided to pick. You might imagine that James, really, of all of them, might not be feeling the need to keep on pounding round. The checkered flag, though, is out, so I suppose that kind of makes sense. Jason Wiley, one of the last drivers on a lap, and he is currently in 12th position. In fact, he may well, Dan, be the last car out on track.
Yeah, Jason Wiley, actually the second driver in the YAMs as well. He has to find just under attempt to take what would be the YAM pole from Ryan Main for Year One Racing Academy. Comes out at the final corner now, Jason Wiley. I don't think there is going to be an improvement on this lap as he crosses the line. The time he needed to get was it's not, that's 139.908, about a tenth slower than what he had already done, and there's still got about 50 seconds left in the session. Not sure if there's anyone still on track at the moment, but we very soon will be going over to the race, which will be round 17 of the BSR MX5 Pro Championship.
looking forward to this one. It's been an intriguing qualifying session, hasn't it? It looked as though James Sharp was going to have this big advantage, but that's not necessarily the way that things are going to play out. Matthew Emery just under 3/10 behind him at the flag, and of course we still wait to see what happens with Stephen McAleer. He may be starting at the back of the grid for this first race, but he was the third fastest driver in that session. Even though it was a session he shouldn't have been taking part in, he's still proven the point, hasn't he? He's still proven that he should have race-winning pace. Will he have time, though, to get through from the back of the field?
Yeah, it depends what happens with this one. The admins may not realise that he wasn't going to take qualifying, but that's something to see what happens. Will McAleer take the start from the grid, or what may happen is they may tell him he has to start from the pit lane, but very shortly that is the end of the session, and we'll have the grid come up for our first of 4 races here at Laguna Seca. And here comes the grid. It's James Sharp from Ivano on pole, and Matthew Emery for asymmetric on the front row. Stephen McAleer qualifies third, and we'll see if he grids up there. Jamie Ayres fourth, the championship leader. Steve Hefford is fifth, for Ben Sharp sixth. Peter Van Gool, Chris Knox, David Ward, and Adrian Hendy ran out your top 10. Ryan Main 11th, Jason Wiley in 12th place. 13th is Mikey Key, 14th Craig Jones, with Martin Sampson and Joe McDonald sharing row 8. Charles Kellyman, Steve Cooley, Andy Maxwell, and Ralph Cullen then round out your top 20, with Carl Hardy, Michael Vaughtman, Lewis Payne, and Phil Reagan the top 24. 25th, Roger Morton. Then it's Graham Slack, Alan Toon, Rob Graham, Dal Bennison, and Steve Hansford, the police car, in the top 30, with the drivers that weren't not setting a time. You've got Vincenzo Amico, Sam McAleer, James McRitchie, and as you see there, the rest of the times and the drivers going across your screen for this first one. Well, it'd be interesting to see if the car of Stephen McAleer does actually take to the starts, and it looks like at the moment, is there a gap on that second row? I have to have a look and see. Yes, there is. There is a gap on the second row, so I think that Stephen McAleer will have to start this one from the pit lane, potentially. The stewards have noticed that he was not meant to be taking the start, but what that means is we will have the 30-second countdown, so we've got about 30 seconds to start this race. Matthew Emery hasn't actually raced for the past couple of weeks. It's good to see him back and putting himself straight on the front row. And Jamie Ayres, a championship leader, he'll also have a more clearer run than he would have done. He doesn't have the car of Stephen McAleer next to him. Ben Sharp and Steve Hefford on the third row, also ones to watch. And a very big grid here, and over 40 cars at Laguna Seca. And they go through the Mario Andretti hairpin for the first time. It could be some fun and games, but the engine notes now begin to rise for the round 17 of the BSR Pro Championship. Lights out, and it's a great start from James Sharp from pole position. Matthew Emery does well to keep up with him. A side by side behind is Jamie Ayres, and in fact Stephen McAleer did take to the grid, so Stephen McAleer in third place. He has taken to the grid. Jamie Ayres and Steve Hefford looking to put the pressure as well. Hefford down the inside of McAleer. Slight contact which pushes him into Jamie Ayres, championship leader. And based on Stephen McAleer's round, Jamie Ayres will also lose a lot of positions. And that is a very controversial one. It's a year one car off as well. Graham Slack through the screen and going through the gravel. So it has been a bit of a messy start to that one.
Well, we kind of thought that might be the case, didn't we? Because you kind of called it, didn't you? So many cars diving into that first hairpin at the same time. Contact almost inevitable, I suppose. And, well, there goes my idea about them all minding their P's and Q's, at least for the first few laps of this first race.
Yes, as you see, it's James Sharp from Ivano in. Start to put a bit of a gap back to Steve Hefford in third, the driver who will be so keen to get that first victory of the season, been so close. And as I come down and say to the iconic corkscrew for the first time, Steve Hefford getting a lot on the brakes on Matthew Emery. But Matthew Emery also is putting pressure on James Sharp. Has some contact in the background there as well. It looks like I don't see any drivers dropping down the timing screens there. So it doesn't like anyone has suffered a terminal issue as a result of that. But it's very close at the front between James Sharp and Matthew Emery. And Matthew Emery looking to get down the inside. Steve Hefford also onto the back of this now. We have a pack of 3 for the lead.
And of course, it's Steve Heffert that could really benefit here because Jamie Ayres, his big championship rival, the championship leader, off at the first corner. Well, Steve Heffert is third in the championship, and if he can snatch a win here with Ayres struggling, he might be able to bring himself fully back into championship contention. These three, though, definitely have a bit of a margin over the rest of the field. It is Ben Sharp in fourth, you can see, trying to bridge the gap to the leading trio, with Chris Knox rounding out that top five, but it's a breakaway of three at the front. James Sharp, Matthew Emery, Steve Hefford, all of them quick drivers, and only a short, sharp 15-minute race here. So particularly for Hefford at the back of this train, he's one that really needs to try and get a move on now to challenge for a victory.
As the cars, as I say, they're going down towards turn 5 and very close between the three. As you see there, Sharp in fourth position, Ben Sharp, and then Knox and Van Gool not far behind. Peter Van Gool looking to put a double mini challenge champion under some pressure there. He's just under the back bumper, and there's also a bit of a gap back then to David Ward in 7th. We've got Hendy in 8th, Wiley in 9th, and Craig Jones rounding out your top 10. And as you see, the field already spreading out quite drastically. We've only had a lap and a half at the front. They're still as close as ever, and it looks like there's been a problem there for Nathan Davis as well. He's into the pits already. That's the driver who was excluded from qualifying and has to pit start in our 3 races, and this meeting has already gone from bad to worse.
And that's not what he wants, is it? Especially since results from this race will have a bearing on where he starts the next one. So it looks as though things are not likely to improve for Nathan for the time being. The leaders, though, come across the start-finish line again. Still James Sharp leading, still Matthew Emery second, but they're dropping Steve Hefford in third place at the moment. Fastest lap set by the race leader, perhaps unsurprisingly. But because of the slipstream effect with these cars, which is what makes Mazda MX5 racing so competitive, he's going to have a hard time, I think, breaking away from the rapid Matthew Emery, who takes a slightly tighter line through the Andretti hairpin for the third time of asking. For the time being, though, Dan, do you think that Matthew may be willing to work with James here? You can see that they're pulling away from the rest of the pack. Perhaps now is not the time to race James. Perhaps now they need to work together and then sort it out between themselves later on.
That is potentially what we can see. The slipstream range of these MX5s is about 1.5 seconds, and Hefford and Emery, Sharp and Emery, have already pulled out about a 2-second gap on Steve Hefford, and rather than attacking the drivers in front, he's got to be careful about Ben Sharp, who's behind. As we look now at the car of Jason Wiley, who is currently second in AM. He's having a great battle with the American Joe McDonald behind, and also Craig Jones ahead of him, who leads. There's a spin for Adrian Hendy. Hendy's gone off. He goes across the track, and the Year 1 racing car. There's also there's Peter Van Gool as well. So 2 cars having separate moments. The Year 1 racing car and Peter Van Gool. He was running in the top 5, and that is a very tricky corner, turn 6. And as you see them coming out, recovering Adrian Hendy into 14th place. That's 2 drivers near the front of the field having what seems to be self-induced spins.
Both drivers who we've seen on the podium earlier on in the year as well, but they're unlikely to repeat that in this race. Adrian Hendy we're following now. He's under more pressure. He's fallen back into the pack now as well. He had himself a little bit of clear track before that moment, but now he's right in the thick of things, and there's a dive bomb up the inside, and was that Ralph Cullinan possibly trying to come through?
Daniel Hunt.
Unfortunately, Daniel Hunt, he uses Hendy to brake for the corner, and it's Hendy that ends up in the dirt. So a scrappy half a lap there for Hendy. He will not be happy.
No, Adrian Hendy, as you say, a podium finisher earlier in the season. It's not going to be this time, but that's a good move there from Vincenzo Michello and Daniel Hunt. And these are 2 drivers that had exclusions from qualifying, and Daniel Hunt, with the robust contact there of Adrian Hendy, probably won't be endearing himself to the stewards again on this occasion. Daniel Hunt is up into 14th place. A good battle going on ahead of them, though. That is the battle we were saying for the AMs. You've got Michael Vortman in there defending hard from Andy Maxwell. As you see, Vortman and Maxwell fighting hard. Carl Hardy, another driver. Carl Hardy is in fact a pro driver, so although they're not racing him for class position, that is an overall battle. And the way that the points work, the AMs are quite entitled to fight with the pros because that's how they get the extra points. A little bit of that's like the car of Darrell Cullinan there that just went across the grass, but they're side by side behind with the Miko and Dan Hunt. Oh, that's Carl Hardy going into Andy Maxwell at the corkscrew, and then contact with Daniel Hunt as well, and things are just getting a little bit scrappy at the corkscrew.
That's one way of putting it, isn't it? One bit of contact sort of ricocheting one car into another. There's Carl Hardy, who was involved in the secondary contact there as cars were slowing down in front of him. And is he trying to give places back here to avoid penalties? On more contact now as well. And car pointing the wrong way. We've got one of the Year 1 cars. Is that Hendy off again? And it's all kicked off well and truly here. They were fairly well behaved, with the first corner being the exception. But after that, they kind of settled down for a little while. It's all started to go a bit Pete Tong since then. It wasn't Hendy, was it? Which of the Year 1 cars was that going off?
66 Ryan Main, the AM driver for Year 1. He has had a couple of AM championships, and he's had a couple of AM wins, but they're not one of his brighter moments. He's got a car slower than the result ones. That looks like the car. Let's see which one that is going slow. That's Carl Hardy. So Carl Hardy struggling. Maybe has damage from the incident at the corkscrew. As Peter Van Gool makes a move on Andy Maxwell. So Peter Van Gool, another one that we saw making a mistake coming out at turn 6, trying to get back up further to field. But as we said, in a 15-minute race, there is not long to recover if things go wrong. And Jamie Ayres is not even showing in the top 24 of my timing screeners. There's a little bit more contact there going through turn 5. That was looking at Ryan Main with Carl Hardy. Main makes a position, but all through the grid, the scrapping is at full potential, and this is what you get with this championship. Up front now, James Sharp and Matthew Emery have worked out nearly a 6-second gap to Steve Hefford, and I think this is now the time where these two drivers, if they were going to start fighting it out, they now have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, there's been an incident there, though, I think, because Ben Sharp, I was just about to say, had actually got himself into 3rd place ahead of Steve Hefford, but at the end of the lap, he's back down to 6th place again, so Ben Sharp's had a moment somewhere towards the end of the lap, just as he got himself possibly into contention for his 3rd podium of the year.
It's a replay on the screen now, and what it was, Ben Sharp, mistake at the corkscrew, got a wheel on the sand, and it sent the Year 1 racing driver around. Lucky not to be collected by another car, but Ben Sharp gathers it up together. But as you say, Andy, he's dropped down from 3rd to 6th.
Yeah, well, that's not good news at all, but it is good news, I suppose, for Steve Hefford, because he's back on the podium, and as I mentioned, his championship rival out of the race. Change for the lead, though. James Sharp makes a dive up the... Matthew Emery, makes a dive up the inside of James Sharp, takes the lead away from our long race leader, and, well, he's clearly decided that now is go time. They've got nearly a 7-second cushion over Steve Hefford in 3rd. It's unlikely that Steve is going to catch them now, even if they start tripping over each other, so I think the final 3.5 minutes or so of this race, we're going to see these two really going at it. And Dan, that was a really nice move, wasn't it? He signalled it early, he was late on the brakes, there was nothing that James Sharp could do.
Exemplary, as you said, there's nothing that James Sharp could do. Matthew Emery making the move cleanly and decisively, and has already pulled out over a 2nd gap on the Movano driver behind him. So Matthew Emery leads for asymmetric with James Sharp in 2nd. They've got massive gap back to Steve Hefford, who now also has a 2.5-second gap pretty much back to Chris Knox in 4th, for David Ward rounding out top 5. But Matthew Emery has not only just got past James Sharp, but he's pulling away at a rapid rate of knots.
An incredible lap, isn't it? He's just set a personal best, in fact, 1:38.24, whereas James Sharp's lap time was about 1.5 seconds off his best, so I think that might have spooked James Sharp a little bit, and he's going to be hard pushed now to catch the leader back up again. Meanwhile, Michael Waltman here going on the attack. He's trying to move around the outside of Craig Jones. This is for 8th position going over the hill, but Jones defending the inside line. Later on the brakes, though, for Waltman, gets his nose in front, and if he's really brave, which he is, he can turn across the bows of Craig Jones, and he moves up into 8th place. He's gained 14 positions from his starting spot as Michael Waltman. He's on an absolute mission, and he could yet get further, because as you can see, he's not that far behind Joe McDonald in the 307 car. Then I think there's a bit of clear air. Joe is about 2.3, 2.4 seconds behind the top 6. So it might be that 7th place is as good as it gets for Michael Waltman, but he is one of the candidates, I think, for driver of the race. Fantastic stuff, moving very rapidly through the field.
And that move was enough to take Michael Waltman into 2nd place in AM. And Joe McDonald is actually the AM leader. So those cars battling there. We've got the car, as you say. We have McDonald, Waltman, Jones and Kellyman. They're all fighting for AM. But they've got Vincenzo and Miko catching up now. We go on board with Miko as they go up towards the corkscrew, up the Rahal Straight, named after Bobby Rahal. Down the inside goes Miko into the corkscrew. That is very nicely done by Vincenzo and Miko. So the Ronin Simsport driver gets himself up into the top 10, and he's just starting now to get across these drivers who are the quicker AM drivers. This is the podium battle ahead of him, but Amico, who's had a start, he's near the back of the grid because he was excluded from qualifying. He's already found himself up into the top 10, and I think he probably could, as you say, get himself maybe up to 7th or 8th because a lot of a loose MX5 there on the exit of turn 11, but Vincenzo Amico, a man on the mission.
Yeah, isn't he just? Actually, the award for most improved in this race goes the way of Ryan Moles. He's picked up 25 positions. He's done the best, I think, of those that have started towards the back. Aaron McGregor, actually, in front of him, picked up 24 spots as well. There is Ryan Moles, and McGregor is... in fact, have they changed? Yes, McGregor's actually just got ahead of him. So McGregor and Moles in 14th and 15th respectively, but they've really gained some serious ground in this race. Meanwhile, we have about 25 seconds left on the clock now. So depending on where the leaders are, this may possibly be the last lap. But I can tell you, Matthew Emery even is now nearly 1.4 seconds clear at the front of the field. So some close battling going on here in the midfield. But out in front, Matthew Emery very much is stamping his authority on this one.
On the race clock, we have just over 2 minutes on that one, so we might get 2 more laps in. But as I say, we're looking at this battle between Ryan Moles and Peter Van Gool. Peter Van Gool was in top 5, top 6 until he had his issue earlier on. In fact, just coming out of this corner is where he had the issue. But Peter Van Gool seems to have a lot more momentum, and on the run up the Rahal Straight, he goes alongside the frantic racing car of Ryan Moles, and the Momo car should have the position made by the time they break the two. There's contact between the two, and Ryan Moles is into the wall. That is very unfortunate there for Ryan Moles. The two cars went side by side, probably the worst possible place on the track to do so, and it hasn't ended well for the frantic racing driver.
I was going to say a lap ago when we were on board with Vincenzo Amico, that is how you overtake into the corkscrew without making contact, and maybe those two could learn from watching that on board back again later, because there was no real need for contact to be made there, but it is a tricky braking zone. You're braking and you're turning and you're going over a blind crest. A lot of things going on there inside the cockpit, so it's tricky enough when you're on your own, let alone side by side with somebody. Back to Michael Ward. Meanwhile, he's placed now. Vincenzo Amico is actually the driver in front of him, and then Joe McDonald still leading this train. Good drive this from Joe McDonald, isn't it? He's keeping some, in theory, quicker drivers behind him, and he's keeping a nice buffer now between himself and the rest of the AM category as well. So clever driving this.
Joe McDonald, the American driver on home soil, and as you say, he's leading the AM, so he's now got that buffer of Vincenzo Amico in the Ronin Simsport car between himself and the cars behind, Vortman, Jones and Kellyman, all very keenly fighting out for a place on the AM podium. There's 4 of them. Only 3 will get onto that podium, so plenty of action left. And speaking of action as well, we've got Adrian Hendy side by side with Ralph Cullinan going to turn 6. Cullinan goes a little bit wide there, kicks at the dust, and it's Adrian Hendy now going alongside, and the run up to the corkscrew just about has the overlap on the result Clavin driver of Cullinan as those brakes come on. Hendy brakes later, a little bit of contact there, nothing major, but Adrian Hendy will go round the outside, although Ralph Cullinan trying to fight back as they go through Rainy Curve turn 9, but he's going to relinquish that place at the moment for Adrian Hendy.
Oh, he's going to have a look at the inside again, though, into the next right-hander. And this is where we could see contact made. Thankfully, they avoid trading paint on that occasion, and that puts, finally, Adrian Hendy into 13th place. So if he can catch and overhaul Aaron McGregor, he might be able to gain some more, but he goes straight on at the final corner, and Adrian Hendy throws it all away again. He worked so hard to get that place away from Ralph Cullinan, and that little mistake might now put paid to any chance he had of clinching that spot before the flag, because he's a couple of seconds behind now as he goes through onto another lap.
And on the final lap, it looks like Chris Knox has actually closed in on Steve Heffer quite markedly. The gap now down to just under a second. It was 2.5 when we last checked in, and Chris Knox, and we've also lost Matthew Emery. He's on the side of the road. Disaster for Matthew Emery. He was in the lead by about 2 or 3 seconds, and maybe a technical issue there for Matthew Emery. It doesn't look like there's any damage on that car. Oh, he's blown the engine. That is extraordinary. Matthew Emery has gone down the gears too hard, and he's going to be absolutely distraught inside that asymmetric car. He looked like he was on the way to victory, but his engine has blown at the Andretti hairpin for the last time. And on the final lap, James Sharp looks like he's going to take victory in a rather fortuitous standards. He comes down towards turn 11 for the final time, will be met by the checkered flag. And James Sharp from Ivano he sees the checkered flag in the distance as he comes down the start-finish straight. And round 17 is James Sharp from Ivano, and Steve Hefford not far behind him, about 7 seconds in that battle between himself and Chris Knox. Hefford takes second. It's Chris Knox in third. And David Ward, we haven't really spoken about David Ward much in the race. He takes fourth place with Year One Racing's Ben Sharp in fifth. For this battle that was going on before, and there's been a change for the AMs as well. Vaughtman has gone past McDonald on the final lap. He takes the AM victory with Joe McDonald second. Craig Jones takes third in AM, and Charles Kellyman takes 10th. But what cruel luck there for Matthew Emery, having done all the hard work. It seems like he blew the engine on the final lap.
Well, he did everything right, didn't he? He sat behind James Sharp for the first 10 minutes of the race. He bided his time, waited for his opportunity. When it came, he took it. It was a decisive and a clean move. He started to pull away. There was nothing that Sharp was going to be able to do to get the win back off him. And then in the end, it sort of fell back into James Sharp's lap, rather. And that is massively unfortunate for Emery, but that is motorsport for you, isn't it? And if you don't look after your equipment, it won't look after you. And sadly for Emery, it means not only does he not win the race, but he doesn't finish the race, and that means he'll have to come from the back of the grid in race number 2, because whilst we do have these partially reversed grids, I think I'm right in saying that retirements from races almost guarantee you'll be at the back for the next one.
You're allowed to be one lap down, so I think Matthew Emery may just about get on to the end of that. The reverse grid. And speaking of retirements, championship leader Jamie Ayres, another one who has retired from this race, so he'll have a massive mountain to climb in race 2. So we now see James Sharp, our race winner, and here are the results from our first round of the day, round 17 of the championship. It's James Sharp taking victory, and that doesn't look like that's the correct results, because I've got Matthew Emery showing. Yeah, that's the qualifying results we're seeing on screen. Apologies for that. We'll get that sorted with our producer. That's better. So James Sharp it is. He takes the win with Steve Hefford 6.7 seconds behind in second. Chris Knox rounding out the podium. David Ward takes fourth for Result Clothing. Ben Sharp in fifth for year one, with Vincenzo Amico for Ronin Simsport Academy sixth, and Michael Vaughtman in seventh place, but he takes the AM victory with Joe McDonald in eighth, Craig James ninth, and Charles Kellyman in 10th. All AM drivers there from 7th through 10th. Aaron McGregor is 11th with Ralph Cullen in 12th. Adrian Hendy, we saw have a rather adventurous race. He finishes 13th with Peter Van Gordon in 14th and Ryan Main 15th for Year One Racing Academy. Jason Wiley made up a lot of places for Frantic Racing in his 16th, with Del Benison and Mick Barry finishing 17th and 18th. 19th place for Sam McAleer. Martin Sampson rounding out the top 20 for Team Automet Knock Hill. Steve Cooley is 21st, Steve Hansford in 22nd, Rob Graham is 23rd, Graham Slack 24th, Roger Morton 25th, and Andy Maxwell 26th. Those are the cars on the lead lap. Those who finished one lap or more down and will be eligible for the reverse grid are the luckless Matthew Emery, James McRitchie, who's also one lap down. We have the drivers who are 2 laps down or more and classified as retirements, being Lewis Payne, Stuart McAleer, Ryan Moles, Stephen McAleer, Carl Hardy, Alan Toon, Daniel Hunt, Phil Reagan, Cesare Rizzo, Nathan Davis as the last 2, the championship leader Jamie Ayres, and also Mikey Key. And 40 cars it was who took to the start of this one. We have 28 classified finishers, and based on what's happened on this one, Andy, I think we can see a very interesting race too. We'll go to Graham now and for our reverse grid draw, and we'll see just how many places are going to be reversed for the second race of the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series for the Seca. The wheel is spinning. Graham Sessford, the master, 25? 35. So that's Daniel. Daniel Hunt is not going to take it as he was out of the race. So full reverse. So James McRitchie and Matthew Emery on the front row, the 2 asymmetric teammates. So Matthew Emery will be keen for retribution following the drama on the last lap. And Matthew Emery getting second on the grid, Andy, is probably the best he could have hoped for following the last lap dramas he had.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a good job I questioned that, then, isn't it? Because, yeah, he is eligible for the reverse grid, and it's worked out absolutely perfectly. And in theory, he should, I don't like saying things like this usually, but he should pretty much have this in the bag, right? Because he's far quicker than those around him on the grid. Everyone that maybe would have given him a run for his money. They're going to be starting outside the top 30. As long as he doesn't buzz the engine again, he should have a good shot here at making up a little bit for the non-finish, or not non-finish, but the disappointing result, should we say, from race 1, and maybe bagging some more points in race number 2. So perhaps his night isn't over just yet, but he certainly needs to make the most of this opportunity. I think another bad result in this race, and he really won't be in a very good mood at all.
Thank you very much for that, Andy. This is Dan Blake. Alongside me is Andy McEwen. I'm Graham Sessers on cameras. And we'll be back with you very shortly indeed for the second race here. You're watching the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series live on Year One Racing TV in partnership with Alpha Live.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
I've got time screen as well, so I'm okay.
Yeah, I'll bring us in.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome back to Laguna Seca. This is in partnership with Alpha Live. We're getting ready now for round 18 of the championship after a foot race 1, which was won by James Sharp. And as we see, the drivers now just lining up on the grid, ready. They've already. It's not, when I press F12, that it's not doing anything.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Good evening and welcome back to round 18 of the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series. I'm Dan Blake and alongside me is Andy McEwen. We also have Graham Sessford producing. We do apologise for the slight confusion. There was a technical issue in the previous session, so you're not missing out on any racing. This is just the practice session. And following on from what we saw in round 17, Andy, we've got the partially reverse grid. I think round 18 could also be a rather entertaining spectacle.
Yeah, I think so. Matthew Emery with a point to prove here, I think, looked as though he was on course for his first victory in race number 1 after what looked like being a textbook performance, and it all went catastrophically wrong when he blew the engine on the final lap. So he's looked in though, he's ended up back on the front row because of the reversed grid for race 2, and with those with whom he was fighting in race 1 now starting right towards the back, this is his golden opportunity now to try and make up for that with a race victory. Other storylines to watch: Jamie Ayres, of course, didn't finish in the opening race. He sustained damage in a first corner shunt, and so he's going to also be coming through from the back. I think it's going to be quite a topsy-turvy race. And Kip Stevens, who we're watching on the screen here, second in the championship, remember. Obviously, he lost on a few points in the previous race. He's now 219 points behind Jamie Ayres, and he'll also be looking to try and close that margin a bit in this one too. So lots of interesting storylines developing going into this second race of the night.
Also, we saw a very close battle for the AMs, which was solved on the last lap with Michael Vortman getting past Joe McDonald. And what we saw in that one is that the AMs were very close together, 3 or 4. And I think we'll see similar in this one as well. The AM drivers fighting tooth and nail to get those AM wins.
I think so. That was a pretty entertaining battle in the first race, and how the AM drivers interact with the pro drivers interests me as well, because obviously quite a lot of the AM drivers have now found themselves with a really strong grid position because of the grid reversal, but at some point they're going to have the really quick pro drivers arriving on their tail pretty rapidly, so that is another potential source of excitement.
As we see, the grid will very shortly be on screen for round 18. It's James McRitchie and Matthew Emery on the front row, with Andy Maxwell, Roger Morton, Graham Slack, Rob Graham, Steve Hansted, Steve Cooley and Martin Sampson all lambs, and Sam McAleer 10th, Mike Barry's 11th, for Dale Bennison in 12th place, 13th Jason Riley, 14th Ryan Megg, Peter Adrian Hendy, Rob Cullinan, Aaron McGregor, Charles Kamen and Craig Jones ran like the top 20. Joe McDonald 21st and Michael Vortman 22nd. And you see the rest of the drivers now scrolling on the screen. We have 41 drivers who will take to the start for round 18, the second one of the evening of the meeting. And Matthew Emery, as you see, on starting second place on the grid. His teammate James McRitchie has not actually shown up on the grid. I believe James McRitchie is one of those drivers, in fact, who had a pit lane penalty for the start of this one. There's a few drivers. So Matthew Emery has taken a de facto pole position out of this one because of his teammate having the penalty. So Matthew Emery will have a clear run to the Andretti hairpin for the first time. But it's 5 lights away we go, and it's a good start also from Andy Maxwell in the optical car. It looks him to pull alongside Matthew Emery. Matthew Emery made a good start, but Andy Maxwell made an even better start. He's down the inside on the run and down to the Andretti hairpin for the first time, and it's the AM driver Andy Maxwell who gets there first. So a bit of a surprise at the start to see Andy Maxwell get the jump on Matthew Emery. At the moment, it looks like there's some contact in the background, and with 41 cars on the grid, oh, it's a massive pile-up. Cars left, right, centre. Which way to go is the question. Rob Graham is a big loser in that one. He's backwards, coming back onto the track. Also, Dale Benison. So, as we saw in the first race, the Andretti hairpin has not proved to be the best of places to be. That's James McRitchie on the pit exit as well. There's another 3 or 4 cars who had the same penalty, and to some extent, Sandy, having the pit start has meant they've avoided the carnage.
And that's not worked out to be a bad thing in the end, has it? But here comes the challenge for the race lead. At the inside goes Matthew Emery, and he's gone through. That's a really tricky place to make the move, but he's got past Andy Maxwell. So Emery leads, Maxwell second. Into third is Graham Slack ahead of Roger Morton. And Graham Slack could be on for a good result there. He is, and then everyone else trying to be in 4th place. Sam McAleer goes around the outside of everybody. He's going for 3rd now into the corkscrew. That won't work, and so he settles back in behind. You've got Steve Hansford there in the police car, and off has gone Emery. I don't believe it. Matthew Emery's gone off from the race lead. It's all gone wrong again, and he's gone off coming out of the corkscrew. We have to assume all by himself, because I think he was getting away. Yeah, too much curb through the right-hand part of the corkscrew, and he's thrown it away again, Dan.
Matthew Emery, that's going to be really frustrated at that one. But he's trying to fight back. That's the Carl Hardy and Mikey Keys racing. It looked like he was all set for victory. He lucked in with the reverse grid draw. But on this occasion, not to be. He's 24th, so he's not as low down as some of the others, but who were racing with him in the first race. But Sam McAleer, as you say, made a good move. But he's gone wide though, going through the Andretti hairpin. And Graham Slack will catch up right to the back of him in the Year 1 racing car. Graham Slack, the AM driver, is currently 3rd overall, which would be an overall podium at the moment. Got 4th. Cooley is in 5th, Vangel 6th, and Sampson 7th. But Sam McAleer, one of the 3 McAleers, could see quite an enticing battle there behind. They're going 3 wide through turn 2 and turn 3, just behind Peter Van Goor, I think it was. There we go. It's these drivers here. Got Adrian Hendy in there, Steve Hefford, one of the drivers who was on the podium in the first race, already up into 8th place.
He was 11th at the start of the lap, so he's picked up 3 places just in the first few corners alone. Steve Hefford is flying, so is Stephen McAleer. He's right behind him in 9th place at the moment. They've made far better progress than any of the others that started towards the rear with them. Also, keep an eye as the race goes on to Jamie Ayres, 18th place, up 21 positions, and he really needs to try and break into the top 10 in this race to try and get some points back after his non-finish in race 1. Watching down the corkscrew, and makes his race slightly cleaner through there than Matthew Emery did on the previous lap. All drama again here, though, at the start of race number 2. The reverse grid always was likely to throw up a few surprises. There's contact and spinning going on in the background there. At least one car has exited stage left, and more as well. Roger Morton involved in this one. There's another car pointing the wrong way. I think it's fair to say the sleeves have been rolled up too, and they're getting well and truly stuck in.
Oh, that's not good. There's 2 cars there into the pit wall. That is Adrian Hendy, one of them. And contact there with another car has put them both into the pit wall at either sides. As we start the 3rd lap, though, we're going to have a quick look at this replay. It was the car of Hendy, and it was one of the result clothing cars. I think they just meet in the wrong place together, and then hard contact for both of them, and they both took different lines into the corner and just seemed to meet in the middle.
I have to say, I'm not quite sure what Hendy could have done to avoid that, really. The other car maybe thought they were clear and sort of started drifting over to the right-hand side, but the end result is that they both appear to be... And this, though, is positioned already into 2nd place, has now caught Andy Maxwell. Andy Maxwell under pressure now, but drifts a bit wide there.
We've got problems with Andy McEwen's at the moment. We're very sorry about that, but as we go through the corkscrew, it's Andy Maxwell, as Andy was saying, Sam McAleer right on the bumper of the optical driver as they go through the rainy curve. And towards the end of this third lap, Sam McAleer will be licking his lips at the opportunity that could present himself. He gets a much better run through turn 10. Andy Maxwell is on the outside, but Sam McAleer will look to go down the inside. Andy Maxwell gives him a lot of racing room, and it's enough for Sam McAleer to put his car through to the inside and into the lead. So the McAleer-McCumbee car of Sam McAleer leads Maxwell in second place, but behind there is a fast group of drivers, including Van Gool, Hefford, and Stephen McAleer as well. So they've got three of the faster drivers in the champion, all in a pack there, pretty much. You can see there on the screen, Maxwell trying to fight back against Sam McAleer, but these three drivers, some of the faster ones in the championship, Van Gool and Hefford in particular, and Martin Sampson doing well to be in fourth place. He goes a little bit wide, but Sampson currently second in AM. Hefford's going to get a better run there and get down the inside. Takes a lot of curb there on the sausage curb there, but not to a detrimental effect as Steve Hefford moves himself up into fourth place, and he's looking for a second podium in a row, and that move means that on the fourth lap he is already up to fourth place. The next target will be his Momo teammate Peter Van Gool. As we now go through turn 6, it's Martin Sampson and as I say, Stephen McAleer in 6th place. And do we have Andy back with us now? I don't believe we do, but Martin Sampson, as we say, just going through the court now in play, and he's got Steve Hefford in front of him. Steve Hefford, a veteran of the BSR series in the MX5, one of the fastest drivers pace-wise in the championship, not been able to put it together for a race win, but as we see, he's had a very good first race and on the podium, and now he's already on the verge of that again. But Peter Van Gool has caught a lot on Andy Maxwell on this lap. Sam McAleer pulling away. The lap time from Sam McAleer, a 140.062. Andy Maxwell a 41.6, so 1.6 seconds slower, but faster than both of them is Peter Van Gool. And Peter Van Gool looking to go round the outside of Andy Maxwell, going through the first corner. They're side by side, and it looks like the Van Gool will take the position back from he does take the position back. And as we see now, we've got a great battle going on and the second place. Looks like we're still having some technical problems. This battle for second, though, is that Sam McAleer is going to be liking this because he's a 2.7 second lead, and Steve Hefford third as well. So Peter Van Gool is second, Steve Hefford is third. We've got Andy Maxwell in fourth place with Martin Sampson running at top 5. Stephen McAleer, though, not far behind the Team Automatic Knock-Heel driver, and looks like Steve Hefford had a poor run out of turn 6, because as they come up towards the corkscrew, Andy Maxwell has managed to get through, and he will clear the Momo driver before get to the corkscrew, although he brakes a little bit later than maybe he wanted to, overshot, not lost the position to Steve Hefford yet, but Hefford will go down the inside through the rainy curve. Andy Maxwell has given him a lot of room there, and that is just enough room for Steve Hefford to make a move. And also Martin Sampson could try and quids in here. Yes, he is. Martin Sampson bargains in, and that is the AM lead for the Team Norton Man. Because Stephen McAleer in between them, though, as they go through turn 12, and it's Stephen McAleer making up 2 positions there. He has to be very careful. He had those 2 drivers in front of him who were fighting for the AM lead. He gets past them, though, and on his way. So Stephen McAleer up into 4th place. And we've got the battle between Sampson and Maxwell. Matthew Emery, following his earlier spin, up into 9th place. He's just gone past the Year 1 Academy driver of Graham Slack. So Matthew Emery looking to make some amends for that earlier mistake. Right, dropping down to 20 on the first lap. Matthew Emery back up into 9th place. As we watch the asymmetric car of Matthew Emery, he's pulling away from Graham Slack. He's already 1.2 coming up to 1.2 seconds clear, and the next target for Matthew Emery is going to be Ralph Cullinan in the Result Clothing car. Looks like we must have Craig Jones. He has gone back into the pits, so not the good start for Craig Jones, who had actually moved up into 4th place in the AM Championship standings following the first race, round 17. But I don't think he'll be getting any more points from this race, as we're still looking at Ralph Cullinan in that result clothing car. Matthew Emery catching him ever so slightly, and that's a lot of under the brakes for Matthew Emery. So Emery catching up to Cullinan, and just behind Emery we've got Slack and Main, the 2 Year 1 drivers, about 2 seconds back, and then behind Main is a good battle there with Chris Knox trying to come through the field as well. Another one of those who started a bit further back. Knox, he's got Mikey Key and also James Sharp, our race 1 winner. Goes a bit wide though, does Chris Knox, and James Sharp maybe looked to try to go inside both of them, but couldn't quite make it work there for himself. So as we see, we've got James Sharp and Mikey Key fighting it out for 13th place. Sharp will look to go round the outside potentially of Key. Key also looking to go past his double clutch racing teammate of Knox. So and what this is doing, it's stacking them up. Also, Michael Vortman and Roger Morton are starting to come into this battle where they're all fighting so hard. But they keep put a wheel on the grass going out turn 2. Oh, contact there from James Sharp, a bit of a biff and a bosh, and that's all it's going to take for him to get past. Although I think James Sharp maybe will concede that position back. Yes, he will. It's great sportsmanship there from James Sharp. He knew that he made contact that maybe was a little bit too excessive, but what that could do is allow Michael Vortman to get past Sharp. I don't think that move has taken place. It hasn't. And at the front, we got Hefford in 2nd place. He's got 3 seconds to catch up to Sam McAleer, with Van Gool in 3rd place, Stephen McAleer 4th, and Martin Sampson currently leading AMS in 5th place. As we now look at Michael Vortman, as you said, he just behind James Sharp, and James Sharp not being able to get back past Mikey, putting a double clutch racing driver under a lot of pressure. And as they go through rainy turn 9, that's Matthew Emery off again. Matthew Emery has had a second moment in this race, and Matthew Emery, has he potentially blown his engine? No, yes he has! Matthew Emery, for the 2nd race in a row, has blown his engine. This is quite extraordinary. Matthew Emery, for the 2nd race in a row, has buzzed the engine, and whatever's going on for Matthew Emery, absolutely destroyed. He's going to try and bring that car back to the pits. This time, he will be not even classified as a finisher because we're starting lap 8 now. So Matthew Emery, 2 races, 2 blown engines, 1 relinquished lead, and he's just got himself back into the top 10 following his early discretion. And that is very strange to see 2 engines go like that for the same driver. Matthew Emery will have to review this and see what's going on, which is causing his engines to buzz. Maybe he's just popping down the gears too quickly, and the Mazda MX5 engine is not liking it, and that's 2 engines he's blown in 2 races. A very expensive meeting so far for him. As we now look at the battle between, we've got Charles Kennyman and Steve Hansford. Steve Hansford in the police car livery, looking to go down the inside of Charles Kellyman. The policeman passes on the inside, not in the highway codes, but when you're racing, it doesn't matter. As Steve Hansford makes that move, there's one board with him now, going towards turn 6. That's a nice little battle. Phil Reagan involved in that as well. Reagan goes across the track and into the gravel, and that was very lucky there that those 3 or 4 drivers didn't come into contact, because I've seen previously at that corner where that has happened. And the end outcome has been disastrous, although they're all still fighting very hard. We got Steve Cooley in there as well for Ronin Simsport Academy. McRitchie, who started in the pit lane, up into 22nd. Kellyman is 23rd. As we now look at that's the car being overtaken. That's Jamie Ayres as well. So Jamie Ayres up into 6th place. He started right at the back of the field after having the issue in the first race. So Jamie Ayres has raced himself all the way up into 6th place, and the next target for him will be the AM leader Sampson ahead of him. And Jamie Ayres, his last lap time was a 1:39.5. Martin Sampson's a 1:40.3. So Jamie Ayres, the much quicker driver. So you think it's only a matter of time before Jamie Ayres gets himself back into the top 5 from what has been a really great drive from the Momo driver, kept out of the problems that were on the first lap, and as a result has now been able to put himself on the cusp of the top 5. Looks like an interesting battle, Stephen McAleer and Peter Van Gool going on as well as they headed corkscrew. Although Sam McAleer, the leader, very scrappy going through the corkscrew. His gap was 3 seconds. It's been halved already. It's now down to 1.5 seconds. Steve Hefford will be in the slipstream range for Sam McAleer as the car's now on the penultimate lap. They're just about to finish lap 9, and Stephen McAleer as well wants to put pressure on Peter Van Gool. He puts a wheel on the grass. The MX5 gets loose. He may outbrake himself there a little bit. He didn't outbrake himself, but Stephen McAleer seems to have the much better drive as Sam McAleer will now take the last lap board. We're on lap 10, the final lap, and the battle for the podium places are still not solved yet. Stephen McAleer, though, alongside Peter Van Gool, that long little wheel on the sand and the dust going into turn 12 will be his downfall because Stephen McAleer has taken 3rd place. So we've got 2 McAleers on the podium for McAleer McCumbee Racing. Sam McAleer leads by 1.1 seconds. Steve Hefford very close with Van Gool trying to make a move on Stephen McAleer. A little bit of a lunge there from Van Gool, half-hearted there to some extent. He was showing his nose to the McAleer McCumbee driver, and no positional change there. But Steve Hefford, as they come under the Bosch Bridge for the final time, is closing in on Sam McAleer. The gap now under a second, and if McAleer, he should be okay if he can just keep it error-free, hit his marks at every corner. But as we've seen before in the BSR MX5 Pro, it's not usually happens that way. Sam McAleer does another 10-2. On the run up to the corkscrew for the final time, we have 2 battles. Battle for the lead and a battle for 3rd place. Both battles just as intense as the other. It looks like Steve Hefford's mistake there. He has dropped back from Sam McAleer, and that could have been all that Sam McAleer needs now to take the victory. Sam McAleer just has 2 corners to go. It goes round turn 11. He just has turn 12 to go. The battle for 3rd, just as intense. McAleer, Stephen McAleer trying to the 3rd from Peter Van Gool. Sam McAleer takes a tight line out of turn 12. But unless Steve Hefford gets a mega run, which he's not going to be able to do, he will not be able to deny Sam McAleer, who takes to lag and wins for McAleer McCumbee Racing. Double podium for them. Stephen McAleer holds off Peter Van Gool, and Jamie Ayres, a fantastic drive, comes from the back of the field to finish 5th. Our AM winner is Martin Sampson for Team Automet Not Kill. He beats out Andy Maxwell in the optical car, and the rounding out top 10 is Cullinan, Knox, and an AM podium from Ryan Main as well. He takes 10th overall. James Sharp, the race one winner, finishes 11th, and Mikey Key 12th. A very slow car there. Kip Stevens finishing the race. He lost 2 positions there to Roger Morton and Carl Hardy. Morgan battling going on further down the field at the bottom end of the top 30. It's Reagan, who's just been overtaken by Vincenzo Miko, holds Mick Barry behind him as the last few cars now begin to finish the race. We've got Robert Graham. We saw him earlier at the first corner on the first lap. He was one of the cats. Very slow across the line there as Rob Graham, but he will take 29th place, and he'll be the final car to cross the line. So we lost quite a few runners in this one. We got a few that are 1 lap down who will be eligible for the reverse grid. But a very exciting race, and another one where Matthew Emery has suffered some issues with 2 blown engines. As well, we now look at a replay of Sam McAleer about to win the race, and that will bring up our race results. So Sam McAleer wins it from McCumbee McAleer Racing by just under half a second from Steve Hefford. Once again, close, but not close enough to a race win. Stephen McAleer rounds out the podium from McCumbee, with Peter Van Gool 4th and Jamie Ayres in 5th. The top 5, all Momo or McCumbee McAleer Racing. Martin Sampson takes the AM win, the 6th overall for Team Automet Not Kill, with Andy Maxwell 7th and 2nd in AM for Team Optical. Ralph Cullinan is 8th, with Chris Knox in 9th for Double Clutch Racing. Ryan Main rounds out the top 10 and the AM podium for Year 1 Racing Academy. James Sharp, the race 1 winner, is 11th and 12th. Michael Vortman 13th and Graham Slack in 14th place. Roger Morton is 15th with Carl Hardy 16th. Kip Stevens up there in the championship. He takes 17th place with Frantic Racing's Lewis Payne in 18th. 19th is Year 1 Racing's Ben Sharp, just ahead of former teammate Steve Cooley, who rounds out the top 20 for Roning Simsport Academy. The 2 Team Optical cars of Steve Hansford and Charles Kellyman, 21st and 22nd. Aaron McGregor is 23rd, with his teammate Vincenzo Amico 24th. That's Ronin Simsport Academy. Phil Reagan is 25th, and AM Championship leader Mick Barry finishes 26th to work guard by Result Clothing. Ryan Moles is 27th, and James McRitchie from the pit lane finished 28th. Rob Graham, very slow across the line, was 29th. And we actually have a lot of retirements from this race, 11 it looks like in total. And they are Matthew Emery with that unfortunate engine blow, Craig Jones, Alan Toon, Daniel Hunt, Jason Wiley, Adrian Hendy and David Ward. We saw them coming together earlier in the race. Joe McDonald, who had an podium, is a retirement. Stuart McAleer is a retirement. And there is also a couple more retirements, I believe. Dale Bennison, Cesare Rizzo, and Nathan Davis, who started from the pit lane, but in that one, and didn't get much further. So that is the results of round 18 of the championship. And now Mr. Graham Sessford will have his reverse grid draw. And it looks like we may have Andy McEwen back with us now. We can get Andy back in.
Hello there, can you all hear me?
Yes, Andy, we can hear you loud and clear.
Good stuff. I got a bit carried away with that race. I just felt I had to sit back and just enjoy it because there was so much going on there. A few technical issues, I think, sneaking in, but hopefully I'll be back with you now for the rest of the night.
As we see, Graham is now spinning the reverse grid draw, the Wheel of Fortune. It is going to be 30, so it's another full reverse grid with 20 finishers. So that puts Rob Graham on pole position, with James McRitchie in second, Ryan Miles will be third, Mick Barry fourth, and Phil Reagan will run out of top 5. And you'll be able to see race 3, round 19 of the championship, here shortly on Year One Racing TV in partnership with Alpha Live. I'm Dan Blake. We have Andy McEwen alongside me in commentary, with Graham Sessford producing for us. And as I say, we'll be back with you shortly following these sponsored commercials.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Coming for a splash. Three, two, one, now. All clear. Punch it. Great job. You did really well.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening and welcome back to the Mazda Raceway of the Lake for the 5th meeting of the BSR MX5 2020 Pro Series. This is round 19, the 3rd of the evening. I'm Dan Blake in the commentary box. Alongside we have Andy McEwen, and directing for us behind the scenes is Mr. Graham Sessford. We've seen a very eventful first 2 races, but Matthew Emery having 2 blown engines, and with a potential victory lost, and in the second one, after a mistake, he was making a great fight back up to 8th or 9th before having the engine blow. This time, he's not been the benefactor of a reverse grid, so he'll have to start at the back for this one. But what that did mean was that we saw a first victory in the championship for Sam McAleer, with the bridesmaid of the series, Steve Hefford, just about half a second behind. Another one where Steve Hefford could potentially have won it, but was not able to do so. And as we say, with the 3rd race now, where the time in the sim is coming up to 5 to 7, so we're going, the track's a lot more cooler than it was. We're down to 18.9 Celsius on the track, and for the 3rd race, Andy, I think we'd see another entertaining race, and hopefully a little bit less contact than we've seen so far.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? But it's been pretty physical out there at times. Of course, they're short races with these reverse grids. You've got a lot of quick drivers coming through from the back, and there is a sense of urgency there to try and get to the front and get there quickly, especially if some of our championship contenders know that some of their rivals actually are a bit further up the grid, which is exactly the situation we had last time with Emery starting on the front row again. But Jamie Ayres, I want to give him a shout out, the championship leader, and he is still the championship leader, although by a reduced margin again. Did manage to get himself into the top 5 in that previous race. That was a brilliant performance, and that means that he's still got this very handy cushion in the championship. This time around, he's got to do it all over again, of course. He puts all that hard work in to come from the back in race 2, and he's got to do it all over again in race 3. But yeah, poor old Hefford. What does he have to do to win a race this year? Because he's had now 6 podiums this year, and another second place finish in the previous race. He was, in fact, he's been second in both races so far tonight. Surely, Dan, that first victory for Steve Hefford can't be that far away.
This has been the ongoing conversation in the past. He was in a winning position in 2 races, wasn't able to do it. Last week again, very close, but just not quite close enough. And the same today, less than half a second away from taking that first victory. And you got to feel that one day soon, Steve Hefford will be able to take that victory. One of the most experienced drivers in the field, as the checkered flag comes out for the practice session, so that means we'll be going to the grid very shortly. But Steve Hefford, by the end of this meeting, we'll be hoping that he can get his victory, and we'll see where he lines up on this one. It's David Ward and Joe McDonald on pole position, with Peter Van Gool and Alan Toon on the second row. Jamie Ayres and Daniel Hunt. I don't think I'm looking at the correct grid. No, apologies for that. I had a few issues with the time in there. There we go. So Rob Graham is on pole with James. No. That's correct, yeah. So we'll scroll through the drivers. It's Rob Graham and James McRitchie on the front row for this one, as the grid starts to form, and we'll see the rest of the drivers now coming up on the starting grid graphics. We see our top 24 there on screen. So the engine notes begin to rise. We have got some drivers from the front of the grid due to penalties. It's a good start from Rob Graham. That was very well timed by the Team Automatic Not Kill driver. And the spaces that we saw on the grid have allowed Phil Reagan to move up into 3rd place, sort of between rows 3 to 5. There were quite a few spaces. Car off, as you at the top of the screen there, hadn't even made it to the first corner before being off the track. It's Peter Van Gool, so one of our front-running drivers, the Momo driver, not had the best of starts, and so far it looks like the rest of them, they are 2 and 3 abreast going down through to the corner, and that is a move down the inside from one of the McAleers, very forceful, but no contact made. Saw the gap, he went for it, and the position gained.
Jamie Ayres, by the way, showing as being in the pit lane too, so that could be more drama for our championship leader. But yeah, that's definitely shuffle the order. Rob Graham and James McRitchie, though, still out in front as we follow some of these midfield battles heading into the first of these left-handers. Car off just in front of us. That's Steve Cooley that's gone wide and bounces his way back across the gravel. And he's going to lose about 10 or 12 places, maybe even more, because he can't find a space back in line. Car gets speared off to the right-hand side of the screen as well. That's Daniel Hunt pointing the wrong way. So, well, we didn't quite avoid the contact in the opening sequence of corners, but these drivers should all hopefully be able to rejoin, albeit after some significant delays.
Out front, though, Rob Graham it is for Team Auto McNaughton. James Vincenzo Amico in third. The asymmetric car in second. And the Ronin Simsport Academy driver just behind. Two of the faster drivers in the championship, the pro drivers. Ahead, and they got Rob Graham, the AM, ahead of them. There's a good battle going on behind as well. Ben Sharp for Year 1 Racing up into fourth place, just overtaking Mick Barry there. But as they cross the line to end the first lap, the top three have already pulled a good 3.5 second gap back as Amico looks to poke the nose down at James McRitchie, but is unable to make the move.
Ben Sharp's had a good start as well. He's up into fourth position from the back end of the top 10. Stephen McAleer into the top 10, having gained a whopping 18 spots on the first lap. A spin there. Ryan Main has got around. Oh, and he collects 2 or 3 other cars. Of course he does. In fact, he's got one of his Year 1 racing teammates involved there too. Ryan, I didn't see actually, I just caught the end of that. I'm not sure whether he was helped into that spin. Graham Slack has got off as well now. We've got Year 1 cars throwing themselves at the scenery left, right and centre. Yes, and he
Matthew it was who tagged the Year 1 car. Also, the race 2 winner James Sharp involved there. So Matthew Emery's night not been great for him so far. He's had the engine problems in the first 2, and then tipping the Year 1 driver into a spin there at the first corner, and that has compromised several drivers' races.
Yes, so Matthew Emery not making many friends out there, but I suppose you can understand he's a bit miffed after what happened in the earlier 2 races. Got another run now to try and get up the inside here into the left-hander, but that's not really an overtaking opportunity. And the last thing he needs is to get involved in more contact here as he's trying to pick his way through the order. Cars going side by side in front of him. Graham Slack is losing ground here, and that could open the door for Emery into the corkscrew. But again, he opts not to take a really risky move up the inside. It's a real traffic jam at the top of the corkscrew, and Emery finally might be able to find a way through and start picking up positions. But yeah, he's a lot further down the order still than he would like to be.
And a side-by-side for the lead as well, going in Andretti hairpin. It's Rob Graham on the inside, but Vincenzo Amico, who has already gone past James McRitchie in second place. But the fastest lap on that race is Ben Sharp at 139.113. So Ben Sharp, the quickest driver on the circuit at the moment, the real-life driver from the Disclock Civic Cup, Ben Sharp, and he looks like he will be closing in on James McRitchie, who's within that 1.5 seconds. And McRitchie there, 2 wheels on the gravel and the dirt. That is not going to do his claims any good for a podium if he keeps doing that. But at the moment, it just feels like Vincenzo Amico maybe is stuck in a bit of a train there behind Rob Graham, not able to quite make the move. Rob Graham is the AM driver, and Amico just needs to pick his time because he has the pace as there goes Rob Graham, and that could be the opportunity he needs. But he fiercely defends on the left-hand side. There's Rob Graham. Vincenzo Amico will try and get around the outside of the corkscrew. We've seen cars go side by side through the corkscrew where it hasn't ended well, but this time Vincenzo Amico does make it stick, and he takes the lead near the end of the 3rd lap. As the top 4 very close together, we have Vincenzo Amico, Graham, James McRitchie and Ben Sharp. Ben Sharp already on the back of this pack already. As we go down to turn 12, we'll try and make a move on James McRitchie, but has to duck back in behind the asymmetric driver. But the Year 1 racing car, Ben Sharp, is on top of his form at the moment. He's 2 very quick laps. It was a 39.1, and also another lap there from Ben Sharp, 38.653. So Ben Sharp is the fastest driver in this pack by far. And as they go down towards the Andretti hairpin for the 4th time, Ben Sharp could be a potential race winner from this position. Although Vincenzo Amico in lead is starting to pull out the gap between himself and Rob Graham. That is up now to 3/4 of a second. as we see the battle for second place hotting up now. McRitchie will try and get down the inside of Rob Graham into turn 5. Rob Graham makes it go round the outside. Well, he's opened the door for Ben Sharp, and Ben Sharp now side by side with the car of James McRitchie, but it goes in behind them. It's now McRitchie and Rob Graham who go side by side through turn 6. That's a very tricky move. They just about got through safely, but Ben Sharp has found enough room for that MX5 to go down the inside of Rob Graham, and as they head towards the corkscrew, it's going to be Ben Sharp on the inside, Rob Graham on the outside. Ben Sharp takes a little bit of the dirt and the gravel, but he makes it stick. Ben Sharp up into a podium place. There's contact behind, I can hear in the background, going through the corkscrew, but it's nothing to do with these 4 drivers at the front of the field. Vincenzo Amico from Ronin Sport Academy has pulled a big gap out to McRitchie. Sharp is in 3rd, Graham 4th. Graham not letting that year 1 driver have it easy. But Ben Sharp will be having full attention on McRitchie ahead of him. Amico in the lead has pulled out a 2-second lead nearly. As we go on board with the year 1 racing driver of Ben Sharp, we see McRitchie's asymmetric car just in front of him. On the brakes goes Ben Sharp towards the Andretti hairpin. Maybe goes a little bit wide, but it hasn't cost him any time to McRitchie. The gap is stable at about 3/4 of a second, but not far behind Sharp. We still have Rob Graham about 3.5 tenths behind Ben Sharp. A little bit loose there for McRitchie as he went through turn 3, as they now head through turn 4 and onto the short straight towards turn number 5. Ben Sharp in the slipstream of McRitchie, and as they go under the Bosch Bridge onto the brakes for turn 5, the left-hander, Ben Sharp keeping a similar gap as he had before to McRitchie. The gap has come down by a tenth or so, but in the meantime Sharp is pulling away from Graham behind. Turn 6, very tricky as you see there, and there's a wheel through the dirt there for, it's going to cross the track and he's into the wall. But James McRitchie into the wall, a mistake by himself there. He caught 2 wheels on the dusty stands at the edge of the track. It spat him across it, and James McRitchie, from being in the podium, finds himself in the wall. Very unfortunate for the asymmetric driver. We have a replay here up on the screen, as you can see. Just got those 2 wheels on the outside. They'll cross the curb, onto the sand, across the track. Luckily, Ben Sharp was able to avoid him. McRitchie spears into the concrete wall. That'll be the race over for the asymmetric driver. And that means our lead pack is now down to a pack of 3. As Vincenzo Amico crosses the start-finish line, a fastest lap for him, a 38.801 is fastest of the race. And Ben Sharp, though, half a tenth quicker, a 138.762. The gap between Amico and Sharp down to 2.5 seconds. We've got Rob Graham in 3rd place as well, with Stevens in 4th. So Kip Stevens, one of the drivers second in the championship, another battle towards the bottom end of the top 10. That's Steve Hefford just going past Hardy in the result clothing car. So we move Hefford up into 8th place, as Hefford now will have to defend from Hardy. Michael Waltman behind as well. Waltman currently 3rd place in the YAMS for this race, and currently leading our YAMS, of course, Rob Graham. Then we have Charles Kellyman, who is 2nd in YAM, and he's under pressure from the McAleer, Stephen McAleer, going around the outsides. We're now side by side between Hardy and Hefford. Hefford has to relinquish the place there to Carl Hardy. He just gained that place, but has to give it back to Carl Hardy. And Carl Hardy, who is driving in the pro class, has taken a position back. Another car going very wide across the stand. That's one of the frantic racing. That is Lewis Payne. So Lewis Payne will drop a position and lose a little bit more time, but he's able to keep it on the track. Unlike what we saw McRitchie do, McRitchie did pretty much exactly the same thing. Ended up spearing across the track. Lewis Payne actually having quite a good run in the frantic racing car. He is currently in 5th place out of the YAMS. And the gap at the front is actually lengthened between Amico and Sharp. Amico's last lap of 38.9 and Ben Sharp only a 39.1, so Amico has pulled out a couple of tenths on Ben Sharp, but Ben Sharp himself was over a second quicker than Graham in 3rd place. Stevens 4th, Knox up to 5th place, so Chris Knox, the double mini challenge champion, making the moves in this race as well, up into top 5, with Stephen McAleer 6th, Kellyman 7th, Hardy 8th, and there's a good battle going on between Hefford and Waltman. Hefford has just made a place up on Waltman, so he'll be He's trying to get through, and as we see here, Vincenzo Amigo putting out a gap, but this is where the action is. Oh, a little curb hop in there by the car of Michael Vortman, and this battle at the edge of the top 10, thrilling stuff. And just behind them, we have David Ward, who's come back from the back of the pack after suffering an accident in race 2, and also the car of Craig Jones, who's quite high up in the AM Championship.
Yeah, Dan, and Steve Hefford here involved in all of this too, trying to break into the top 10. He's just lost a place though, actually. David Ward going up the inside of him there through the left-hander, and Hefford could do with maximising this opportunity, couldn't he, with Jamie Ayres out of the race again after early dramas. So Steve Hefford not really making the electrifying progress we might have expected. And we're watching him now then, the red car with the yellow roll cage, and for some reason seems to be going on the defensive now rather than moving forward. That's Craig Jones, the next man, lining him up for a pass, and then Lewis Payne, the black car, who's also caught this group. So Steve Hefford in a little bit of trouble now, and you can see the way that he's dropping away from the cars in front. Now, that's not the kind of pace we would expect, so I wonder if he's had a knock somewhere along the line and that car maybe isn't quite handling as it should be.
Another driver that's had a moment on this lap is Ben Sharp. Ben Sharp, who now down to 4th, he has lost time to the Year 1 racing driver and a replay, and he's made one mistake already tonight at the corkscrew, and this may be another one. It was on the exit, exactly the same thing. So Ben Sharp got a little bit greedy on the exit, hit the sand, and he did it already once tonight, and that for the second race of the evening, finds himself backwards going at the exit of the corkscrew.
Seen so many people do that tonight, haven't we? It's very easy to do because the car gets light over the crest through the left-hander, and it naturally wants to drift out wide, and yeah, he just got 2 wheels in the dirt and around it went, unfortunately. So Ben Sharp now finds himself right in the thick of this battle going on, and that's Stephen McAleer is having a look at the inside now. So Ben Sharp might be about to lose out further positions if he's not too careful. But quite a few drivers tonight who we would expect maybe not to be making this many mistakes have found themselves in strong positions, and they've thrown it away. So speaking of which, Matthew Emery, by the way, so far so good. He's still going in this race, but he's down in 17th place, and I think as we get this deep into the race now, a top 10 is going to be hard to get. So yeah, quite a few drivers I think ruining mistakes tonight.
That corkscrew we just saw there on board with Stephen McAleer, there is a lot of debris in the middle of the corkscrew where drivers have been coming across the track and dragging it on, so that will be a factor. But we have our 3 Real Life Racing drivers together in one line, not Sharp and McAleer, and these 3 are trying to catch up to the car ahead of them, Kip Stevens, who is running well in the championship, coming into this race was second in the championship, and with Jamie Ayres failing to score again, an opportune moment for Kip Stevens to gain point as he looks to get the championship lead.
That's a good point. This will be Kip's first podium of the night, so good time to do it, I suppose. We're on board though still with Stephen McAleer as he drops down the hill into the Andretti hairpin, so it looks as though Ben Sharp has settled back in again now, but he'll definitely be keen to get past the cars in front if at all possible. Great onboard view this from Stephen McAleer as he slides his way through turn 3 into turn 4 now, uses the curb but avoids the raised sausage curb on the inside that can really unsettle the car, and seems to carry a bit more speed out of there. You can see that slipstream start to take effect too, and he closes in onto the rear bumper of Ben Sharp's car in front. Wide line there from McAleer. Is it a quick line? Sharp thinks so. He moves over to the middle of the road to defend, but again, as I've said a few times tonight, this isn't really an overtaking opportunity. Sharp clips the curb though, gets a bit too sideways, and this is McAleer's opportunity. Carries much more speed up the hill. He's got the inside line for when we hit the brakes at the corkscrew, and I reckon that Stephen McAleer is about to move through into the top 5. Sharp is as late on the brakes as he dares though, goes around the outside through the left-hander, gets the inside for the right-hander and fends him off. Good defensive driving there. McAleer's back up the inside again though. Oh, this is getting really close. The next corner is a right-hander though, and that will favour Ben Sharp. So yeah, for the time being, stays in front, but McAleer giving him a real workover.
Stephen McAleer going towards the inside. That's going to be a brave turn. Big. Oh, beautiful move from Steve. Told Ben Sharp a dummy there, but it's gone wide on the exit. Sharp has the momentum, and as they get the last lap board now, we are on the final lap. They're side by side across the line, and Ben Sharp has the inside line. So Stephen McAleer, brave move into turn 12, and he may have tried to do similar here on the inside for the Andretti hairpin. He did try, but Ben Sharp, a wily racer himself, he knows how to defend. And Ben Sharp in the Year 1 racing car stays in 5th, but what this has allowed is Chris Knox and Kip Stevens ahead to escape. So what was a pack of 4 is now down to 2 pairs of 2.
Yeah, and Chris Knox's last lap was bang on his fastest pace. He was only about 6/100ths away from his previous best lap, so he actually senses a chance here to get ahead of Kip Stevens and steal this podium away. We've got them on the screen now. Chris Knox there, the blue, white, green, black. It's got a bit of everything on that car, hasn't it? But it's going quickly, and he's right on the tail of Kip Stevens. There you can see Rob Graham in the foreground running in 2nd place. It's all about the battle for the final step of the podium, though, as they make their way up the hill for the final time, and it looks like Knox is looking to the inside, just trying to distract Kip Stevens maybe, but he is close enough to have a lunge, and he does have a lunge. Backs out of it at the last second, though. Sensible driving there from Chris Knox. That would have ended in contact if he committed for it, and that might just be enough for Kip Stevens to hang on to the podium.
As Vincenzo Amico goes through turn 12, the Ronin Simsport Academy driver will take round 19 of the championship. Vincenzo Amico, with faultless drive, he takes victory by over 12 seconds, and Rob Graham will take a great 2nd place as an overall podium and the YAM win for the Team Automet Knock Hill driver. Rob Graham takes 2nd, in 3rd place Kip Stevens, 4th is Knox. Sharp and McAleer finish 5th and 6th. Charles Kellyman will be our 2nd AM in 7th. We've got Hendy and Vortman riding out the top 10. Vortman taking the final AM podium place. As you see Daniel Hunt crossing the line, he's finished this one in 14th, and the rest of the cars crossing the finish line to conclude the 3rd race of the evening, round 19 of the championship. That's Jason Wiley for Frantic Racing, who's finished in 19th. Very close there between Aaron McGregor and Adrian Hendy. It was Hendy who just getting edged out by McGregor. The gap between those two at the line was just under half a tenth, so not much between them at all. Andy Maxwell is 26th, as we see Roger Morton now as well. We haven't seen tonight, but he's crosses the line in 27th, and that looks like a very slow Dale Benison for Work God by Result, looking to cross the line. He may actually get overtaken by his team Alan Toon. I don't know what's going on here with Dale Benison, but he has hit problems on the final lap, and in fact it looks like he just let his teammate do Alan Toon. So Benison slowed down to let Toon by, and now Alan Toon will take 28 for Dale Benison 29. I'm not sure why they switched places like that. Maybe it's for the AM Championship. I know Alan Toon higher up than Dale Benison, but it seemed rather strange that when you're 28th and 29th, you're switching places.
Annoyed will he be if the top 28 are reversed now on the grid for the final race of the evening? That would be some pretty bad luck for him, wouldn't it? But yeah, strange stuff there. I've heard of teammates working together when they're in podium places, but yeah, that seemed a bit unnecessary. Great win, though, for Vincenzo Amico. Dominant victory, actually. Probably the most dominant win we've seen so far this evening. Good to have Kip Stevens up there on the podium, too. And one of those that we were watching further back, well, Jamie Ayres out again. Matthew Emery only made it up into about 14th, 15th place in the end. So quite a few of our expected frontrunners still continuing to struggle. And that's gifted the opportunity for a few outsiders to really steal the limelight tonight.
Yeah, so as you say, it was a fantastic win for Vincenzo Amico. It takes round 9. Rob Graham finishes first in the YAMs, 2nd overall, with Kip Stevens riding out the podium. Chris Knox is in 4th, with Ben Sharp 5th after a great fight with the IMSA Pilot Challenge driver Stephen McAleer. Charles Kellyman was 7th and 2nd in AM, with David Ward, Carl Hardy and Michael Vortman rounding out the top 10, Vortman taking 3rd in AM. Steve Hefford, 11th place again. Another solid, consistent finish from Hefford, who has been sort of in and around the top 10 all evening. With Craig Jones in 12th and Lewis Payne 13th. Daniel Hunt is 14th. With race 2 winner Sam McAleer 15th. Matthew Emery gets a finish and is 16th place. With James Sharp for Movano Racing in 17th place. Steve Cooley is 18th for Ronin Simsports Academy. And riding out your top 20 is Jason Marley and Aaron McGregor, with Adrian Hendy and Ryan Main 21st and 22nd. Stuart McAleer is 23rd, and Ryan Moore is 24th. Graham Slack 25th. Andy Maxwell is 26th. Roger Morton 27th. We saw that switch around there at the end between Alan Toon, finished 28th, and Dale Benison in 29th place. The drivers who retired from that race are Joe McDonald, also our AM Championship leader Mick Barry. So Mick Barry has had 2 bad races in the first 3, and he's got to be perilously close now to losing that AM lead, with James McRitchie, Phil Reagan, Ralph Cullinan Steve Hansford, Mikey Key, Martin Sampson, and championship leader Jamie Ayres, also non-finishers. So both of our championship leaders in both Pro and Am not having the best of races. Also Peter Van Gool and Nathan Davis also have both not finished this one. So it's been a really tough meeting for Jamie Ayres so far, and he'll be hoping that the fourth and final race of the meeting, he'll be able to pull something out, because his championship lead will be significantly dwindled by now.
Yeah, it was 239 points going into that race, but we saw Kip Stevens, who was the man in second place, take a podium. So that's definitely going to do some damage, and Jamie will actually be quite grateful. I think the likes of Steve Hefford, for example, didn't actually do quite as well out of that race. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Some damage done. I know there's a long way to go in the championship, so there may not be a huge amount of point of really focusing on the championship standings right now, but it's still always fascinating to see how this develops over the course of a season. And yeah, Jamie Ayres having a bit of a night to forget so far.
And what we have now is we have Graham, who's spinning the wheel, tell us what the reverse will be for our final race of the evening. .30, so that means it's another full reverse, and Del Benison will be on pole position with his work guard by Result Clothing, Alan Toon alongside him on the front row. Those two drivers just saw at the end of the race. Roger Morton will be on third on the grid, Andy Maxwell on fourth, and Graham Slack will round out the top five, and you'll be able to see round 20, race 4 of the evening, here with us on Year One Racing TV in partnership with Afterlife very shortly. I'm Dan Blake, got Andy McEwen alongside me in the commentary booth, and we also have Graham Sessford on production, and we'll see you very shortly for the fourth and final race of the evening.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Coming for a splash. Three, two, one, now. All clear. Punch it. Great job. You did really well.
the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening and welcome back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This is round 20 of the BSR MX5 20 series, our 4th race of the evening. I'm Dan Blake in the commentary box. Alongside me is Andy McEwen, and we have Graham Sessford directing. We had a thrilling first 3 races, 3 different winners, and a few stats coming into the third race. Currently, out of the 3 races so far, the drivers that have the most points tonight have been Steve Hefford, who has 267, Chris Knox, 257, and Vincenzo Amica, the race 3 winner, he has 254 points. In terms of the championship gaps, the gap between Jamie Ayres and Kip Stevens at the top of the championship down to 149 points, but things are getting even closer in the AMs. The gap between Mick Barry and Craig Jones now down to just 82 points.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been all chopping and changing, hasn't it? But actually, all things considered for Jamie Ayres, when you consider that he hasn't finished 2 races, he's got 1 top 5, 1 5th place finish to show for his evening. Things could actually have been a lot worse. He came into this evening's racing 160 points ahead, and it's come down to 149. So despite all of his trials and tribulations, he's only lost 11 points to Kip Stevens, who's had an equally disappointing night. It's really those from 3rd place back that have gained the big points and sort of brought himself back into championship contention. But final race of the night, I'm expecting good things from this one because they don't need to worry about grid positions for the next race anymore. They don't. This is their last chance to score some points tonight, and I think we are going to see elbows out stuff from those that really want to try and end their night on a high.
Race 4 is always the more breathtaking one because, as you say, there's no about other races. As we see now, Dal Benison is on pole position with Alan Toon alongside him. We've got Roger and Andy Maxwell very well. They're actually 3rd in the team point. Graham Slack, Ryan Moles, Stuart McAleer, Ryan Main, Adrian Hendy and Aaron McGregor round out the top 10. And we'll see the rest of the drivers and their positions scroll on the screen now. Steve Hefford, you see there, starting 19th for standout one, as that's the first 24. Kip Stevens, 27th place for the driver 2nd in the championship. And you have to go a lot further down to find the championship leader Jamie Ayres, who starts this one in 38th place, with his teammate Peter Van Gool in 39th place to accompany him. And then Nathan Davis for the pit start in race 4 as a result of the indiscretions at Spa last week. But we've got the 2 work guard by result clothing cars on the front row. It's Dale Benison and Alan Toon. As the lights now begin to illuminate, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the 5. Out they go, and Dale Benison. Fantastic. Not such a great start though from Alan Toon alongside him, the gentleman Mr. Toon. And as you see there, Andy Maxwell will be going around the outside potentially here of Roger Morton. Andy Maxwell makes the move stick, so it's Bennison who leads Maxwell in second place, Morton in third. We've got one of the Frantic Racing cars there just taken to the sand and the gravel on the outside of turn 1, but at the moment it looks like everyone has got through, so other than some minor issues. Oh, that's Andy Maxwell. Maxwell's in the wall at the exit of turn 3. He needs to be careful as he's pulling back onto the track. He's got a field of fierce MX5s, but it looks like he's got through okay, and now we got more issues. I see cars scattering left and right, but at the front of the field, Dale Bennison still leads, but it's Graham Slack now in second place. They're 3 and 4 wide going turn 5. Ben Sharp in the thick of it as well, alongside the car of Jones and Hardy. We've also there got also Chris Knox is involved as well, as long as James Sharp. And as the race 3 winner, Vincenzo Amico, climbs up the hill. Let's do 2 more cars. There's a front car and a result car. The result car there is Ralph Cullinan, and it's been a rather frantic start to race 4 as we predicted.
Yeah, we sort of saw that coming, didn't we, really? But you got to feel for Andy Maxwell. He hadn't quite got the move made for second on Roger Morton, and I noticed that Roger has dropped back down to 4th place as well, so I don't know whether the two of them tangled or whether he did that on his own, but either way, Maxwell now dropping out of contention. The leaders, though, coming through the final corner. David Ward, we're watching here on the outside line into the final turn. Look at the lead, though, that Dale Bennison's got. He crosses the start-finish line, and who is going to come through in second? It's Adrian Hendy, 3 seconds behind him already. Stuart McAleer here on the attack. He comes through in 4th, trying to get onto the podium here at the expense of Daniel Hunt. Is he going to have a look on the inside into the braking zone? I don't think he is, but Stuart McAleer has a big swarm of cars behind. Matthew Emery's had a good start, hasn't he? Emery is into 7th place now. He's going for 6th up the inside. That is 6th he's going for on the inside of Graham Slack, but he's on the outside line into turn 3 and has to duck back in line just ahead of Steve Hefford. Oh, and that's our race 3 winner. Vincenzo Amico is off, unfortunately. No repeat of his race victory that we saw in the previous race in this one, it seems.
Vincenzo Amico in trouble as we now see Graham Slack fighting very hard with Stephen McAleer, and also Steve Hefford's going to find his way into it. Pushed it a little bit wide there. That's going to allow Ryan Main to go past. So Graham Slack losing 3 positions there going through turn 5, but the drivers who are at the top of the championship finding their way through, as there's a car, that's one of the McAleers going off. That's it looks like Stuart McAleer. So Stuart McAleer's had a moment, but Matthew Emery up into 4th place. There's a side by side. That's the 2 McAleers, Stephen and Sam. Stephen goes past Sam there. So Stephen McAleer, the driver from the IMSA Pilot Challenge, finds himself in 5th place with Sam behind. And also Steve Hefford, the man that we said struggling to find a race win this season, been very consistent, top point scorer on the night today, up into 7th place. There's a spin for Stuart McAleer in the background. He's going to try and keep out the ball. He will do, but a lot of places will be lost, and there's more contact there going into the final corner. There's a big crash there involving 2 Year 1 cars. One of those is Ryan Main and Graham Slack as well. So the Year 1 racing drivers, it looks like, may have come into contact with each other. We see the replay there. Stuart McAleer had his moment to the back of the shot, and it was, Graham Slack's gone into the back of his teammate, and that's another thing he's given him a second one as well, and that's the one thing you don't want to be doing, is colliding with your own teammates.
I know that the Year 1 guys had a little bit of a demolition derby sort of chance to blow off some steam the other night, and I think a couple of them think that that's carried over into this evening's racing. That's a shame to see the 2 teammates coming together. Fastest man on the track, though, well, you're watching him. Daniel Hunt just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:38.85, and he has caught the race leader Dale Bennison. He's bringing Adrian Hendy with him. It'd be nice to see Hendy on the podium in this race, and these 3 cars are about to start climbing up towards the highest point on the circuit, the corkscrew, absolutely together in full darkness now here at the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. A 3-way fight for the lead, but it's Matthew Emery, I think, there in 4th position, who is going to start catching them. Onto the brakes, on board with Hendy in 3rd place. The race leader Bennison starting to defend. That's going to stack everybody up, and that means Daniel Hunt's going to want to get on with it. He goes to the inside line. This is a tough place to make a pass, though, and he backs out of it. The banking in the early part of that corner falls away on the exit, creating a lot of understeer, and that makes it hard to run side by side. But we do now have 4 cars together. Benison, Hunt, side by side into the final turn. Hunt goes to the outside line. Adrian Hendy defending his 3rd place from Emery as well. This is all getting very tight, and just to add to the excitement, Stephen McAleer is about to make this to 5-way scrap.
Matthew Emery, he's had some bad races tonight, but going down the inside of Adrian Hendy. Also, we have a similar going on for the lead. Daniel Hunt has already won races in the championship this season. Back into lead, and Matthew Emery looks to buy in and take second place. Fantastic move from Emery. He saw the gap. He knew he could just about make it through, and he has done. So we now will have a battle for the lead between Daniel Hunt and Matthew Emery. Stephen McAleer, though, also a little bit of a nudge there on Adrian Hendy, but he gets through as they went through turn number 3. And I think we could have a nice little battle brewing, but Dale Benison has done well to hold on for as long as he has done, the AM driver. He does currently still lead the AM class, but our top 3 are now Daniel Hunt, Matthew Emery and Stephen McAleer.
Daniel Hunt, don't forget, was up there in 6th place in the championship at the start of the night. He's dropped down to 11th place after his issues earlier on, so he'd be desperate for a victory, but you'd have to probably put your money on either Emery or McAleer for this one. They've both been the pace setters so far in this race. Stephen McAleer that is, set the new fastest lap on the previous lap, and he is already starting to give chase to the leading 2. Steve Hefford is also gaining. He's into 6th place now, and Adrian Hendy is the next man on his hit list as he tries to work his way into the top 5. Back down the hill they go, headlights ablaze, coming towards the completion of the 4th lap of the race, and Daniel Hunt with this 6/10 of a second margin out in front, but already, Dan, it's starting to shrink.
It is starting to shrink. Matthew Emery, who saw that pace in that race, he drove exemplary well, apart from on the last. Another driver who's been making the moves in this race is Jamie Ayres. He started in 38th, and he's made 27 positions, the championship leader, up into 11th place, a 27 place gain. He's just gone past Carl Hardy. The next driver he'll be trying to catch up to get into the top 10 will be Rob Graham, but Jamie Ayres has had a fantastic first half of this race, and he may even get towards the top 10 before we even finish our 5th lap.
And crucially, Kip Stevens, second in the championship, has only picked up 9 spots, so he's all the way down in 18th place at the moment. Hefford has done slightly better. He's 3rd in the championship, 5th in the race, but Jamie Ayres at the moment doing exactly what he needs to do to try and hold on to this reasonably comfortable championship margin. Well, having predicted a lap ago that Emery and McAleer were going to charge straight onto the coattails of Daniel Hunt, Hunt immediately proves me wrong and sets the fastest lap, a 1:38.23. But I think it's starting to shrink again on this lap now as Emery picks up a bit of a slipstream around the far side of the track. McAleer, for the time being, not quite able to go with them. Ooh, 2 wheels in the dirt there for Daniel Hunt. That's going to hurt his momentum all the way up the hill. And the timing screen confirming that it's just shrinking by 100th of a second at a time, this gap between the top 2. Dale Benison, meanwhile, trying to defend, but reasonably unsuccessfully, really. He's going backwards now. Started on the pole. He's now down into 7th place.
The next car to try and make his way past Dale Benison is Chris Knox, and Chris Knox makes it round the outside. He's going to get the momentum into turn 11, that downhill right-hander. So it's Chris Knox now up into 7th place. And as we see the battle at the front, Daniel Hunt and Matthew Emery down to about 6/10 of a second. They are dropping Stephen McAleer as they come across the line the last time. Matthew Emery has done a 1:38.211, but he must have collected an off track because Daniel Hunt's 1:38.228 has been given as the fastest lap of the race. So Matthew Emery was quicker, but he may have gotten the 1x along the way, which was invalidates his lap time. Stephen McAleer in 3rd place. We've got Hendy in 5th place, and Steve Hefford up into 4th place. So Hefford on the cusp of a podium again, but this gap between Hunt and Emery looks like it's fluctuating, but Matthew Emery at the moment looks like he is starting to inch by inch close up to the back of Daniel Hunt.
This has been a good lap so far for Emery, and the closer he gets to Hunt, the more mistakes the race leader is starting to make. I've seen him 2 or 3 times over the last lap or so, just dipping wheels into the dirt, and there's no luxury of tarmac runoff areas here at Laguna Seca. If you run wide like that, you're going to be in the sand, and again he's done it there as they head up the hill, and Emery is now closer than ever. The gap is under half a second as they crest the hill into the corkscrew. Crucially, though, they're continuing to drop Stephen McAleer, so it's looking like one of these two drivers on your screen right now are likely to take the victory. We're on board now with the Hunter, Matthew Emery, chasing down his prey as they head into the penultimate corner. Has a little look to the inside, but it's the next corner that he'll probably try and tee up a move. Again, Hunt just dips 2 wheels into the dirt, but he doesn't feel the need to defend into the last corner. Misses the apex slightly. Emery just looks the neater of the two at the moment. He's making fewer mistakes. He's lapping quicker, and he's now got a nice slipstream up across the start-finish line onto the 7th lap of the race. And Daniel Hunt surely on this occasion will have to defend the inside line. Emery will look to the outside. Maybe try and sell the dummy. No, doesn't go for it this time. They both make the corner, and still Daniel Hunt hangs on.
And Matthew Emery there with the fastest lap of the race. This one, a 1:37.990. So the first driver into that 1:37 bracket. And Matthew Emery, he's had some bad luck tonight with the car and the engine not giving him the support he's needed. Hopefully he won't have any more problems with the engine. And Daniel Hunt, though, will be hoping that is exactly what does happen, because Matthew Emery is putting them under fierce pressure. As I say, they both dropped Stephen McAleer to the tune of 3.5 seconds. So Hunt and Emery have about 3.5 laps to go, and as you said, Daniel Hunt starting to make little mistakes, and these little mistakes do mount up as you see Matthew Emery now right on his coattails, and once again Daniel Hunt has gone wide onto that sand, and this is all the opportunity that Matthew Emery needs. He pulls alongside the Mazda MX5 with Daniel Hunt, and as they pull down towards the corkscrew, he brakes on later and he seals the move. So Matthew Emery for asymmetric takes the lead. It was another mistake there from Daniel Hunt, which was what contributed to his downfall.
Yeah, you could kind of see that coming, and if Hunt's going to get this lead back, he needs to strike now, I think, before Matthew Emery has the chance to pull away. It's now Hunt's chance to apply the pressure, and he has a really good exit there for the penultimate corner, so Emery will have to think about defending here into the last turn, but they both have to brake at pretty much the same time. Emery knew that he wasn't under too much pressure, and he hangs on then. 7 laps in the book. We go on to lap number 8. 3 laps to go in our final race of the night, and that is how close it is between the top two. Just a quarter of a second separate Matthew Emery and Daniel Hunt. Emery will really feel that he deserves a win out of this evening's racing. He arguably should have won at least once, maybe twice already today, and now he's really feeling the pressure as Daniel Hunt uses the slipstream to stay with the race leader. This is something we see, isn't it, so often in MX5 racing. You can reel in another driver by a few tenths a lap, you can breeze past them, but then you just can't get away because of that slipstream, and I don't think Daniel Hunt is going to let Matthew Emery off the hook here.
Daniel Hunt, they're right on the ragged edge, another wheel on the gravel. We took the inside curb there as well. And Daniel Hunt, as you say, is not going to let Matthew Emery go, and the MX5s, I raced them myself, the Mark 1s, and very, very draft friendly, those cars. Even if you get within sort of a second and a half, you can feel the slipstream, and that is replicated in iRacing as well. So he's really going to have to try and fight hard to shake off the attention of Daniel Hunt. It looks like there's been a problem for Ben Sharp, who's retired the car. He's into the pit, so not a good race for year one racing. I've seen at least 3 of their cars have some rather terminal issues, but speaking of terminal issues, Daniel Hunt is going to try and get right behind behind Matthew Emery. Matthew Emery will be feeling the pressure of Daniel Hunt. He gets a much better run through turn 11. He's going to have to defend to the side into the final corner. Daniel Hunt decides to go for the outside, which may incorporate a switchback onto the start-finish straight as Matthew Emery comes across the start line very shortly to start his penultimate lap. The gap between himself and Daniel Hunt is around 0.2 of a second. It's getting lower and lower by be an opportunity here for Hunt. Emery defends the inside line. Daniel Hunt will try and go to the outside on the right hand side. There's a little bit of overlap there, but Matthew Emery has made sure that he's defended that one perfectly, and as they can carry on this lap, they're now going through turn 3 and turn 4. The more defensive lines that Matthew Emery takes, the better run that Daniel Hunt will be able to get.
Daniel Hunt may be aware of the issues that Emery's had tonight. Remember, he's buzzed the engine twice, he's had a spin at the corkscrew too, so Matthew Emery has not been faultless tonight, and if Daniel Hunt knows that, he's going to really try and play on it. He's going to sit on the rear bumper of the race leader, try and force another mistake out of Emery, and that could be all it takes. It's Hunt, though, that runs a bit wider there, coming through that left-hander, climbing steeply uphill. That's why you really need to keep the momentum up in these cars. They're not the most powerful of things, and so if you make a mistake out of a quick corner, it really hurts your speed up the next straight. But they're both pretty evenly matched as they head towards the corkscrew for the penultimate time. Is it going to be a mistake, or will we see a lunge from Daniel Hunt? You won't want to take Emery out, but if he sees half an opportunity to get through, you know that he's going to go for it. And maybe that opportunity is coming in a quarter or so's time. We saw a lap ago that Emery made a mistake at this corner, the penultimate turn. If he does that again, Hunt could have a go into the last corner. Oh, again, as I say that, though, it's Hunt actually that kicks up the dust into the braking zone. Emery still in front.
So Matthew Emery under intense pressure here from Daniel Hunt. The last lap board now, just coming across the start-finish line. And that is the last lap board. We are on the final lap at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and we still won't be able to tell you who's going to win this race because Daniel Hunt putting Matthew Emery under all sorts of pressure. He's tried this move on the previous lap, round the outside of the Andretti hairpin, and this time though, if Daniel Hunt can stay to the inside, he'll have the line for turn 3, which he has done. Daniel Hunt has that overlap, and so breaking to turn 3, he breaks later and takes the lead back. So Daniel Hunt on the last lap has taken the lead back, and if Matthew Emery is going to try and get his position back, he is going to have to try and find the position pretty quickly to do so. We have seen Daniel Hunt though have issues coming out of turn 6 and kicking up the dirt, but the gap between Hunt and Emery much lower than it was. Emery trying to get around the outside and turn 5, not quite able to make that move stick, and the loss of momentum there from Matthew Emery means that Daniel Hunt has been able to pull out the gap a little bit coming down the straight. But this is the key part of the lap. Will Daniel Hunt clip the dirt? In fact, they both seem to clip the sand, but Daniel Hunt has lost more momentum than Matthew Emery. This is the final lap. Will Matthew Emery make that lunge to the inside? No, Daniel Hunt defends the inside. Emery will try and get round the outside of the corkscrew, but nothing can do, and it's Daniel Hunt who maintains the lead.
It's all going to go down to the last corner, as so many races over history have done here at Laguna Seca. But is Emery going to be close enough? This has been his Achilles heel all race. The penultimate corner, he needs a perfect exit, which he gets. Hunt's in the dirt. There's going to be a gap on the inside, and Emery surely is going to go for it. Lunges on the inside line. Contact is made between the two of them. Emery barges his way through on the inside line. It's a drag race to the line, and Matthew Emery, after all of his problems throughout the night, is not going to hang on. He gives the place back to Daniel Hunt. He knew there'd been contact, he knew he could cop a penalty, and that was brilliant gentlemanly driving there from Matthew Emery to give Daniel Hunt the victory. What a dramatic final lap.
What a final battle between Daniel Hunt and Matthew Emery. As you said, great ship there from Emery to allow him to have the place back, as we see Rob Graham crossing the line to take AM victory. So Rob Graham takes the AM win from Dale Benison. And third place in the AMs is Joe McDonald. So a good night in the AM Championship for Joe McDonald. He's had a couple of podiums. Now it will help. But thrilling racing there between Daniel Hunt and Matthew Emery. And a fantastic battle pretty much through half of the race. And as you say, the great sportsmanship there from Emery. He made that last lap lunge on the last corner. He knew he had to try and make something work. He couldn't quite make it work. He did make contact, and that was unfortunate, but Daniel Hunt deserved to have the victory. He made a few little mistakes along the way, and Matthew Emery will be wondering what he had to do to take a win. But I think regarding what he's had so far tonight, he'll take a second place.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And that's Daniel Hunt's 4th victory of the year as well. So it's turning into quite a nice season, this, for Daniel. Biggest mover in that race, by the way, Jamie Ayres, up 29 positions to finish in 9th place. The championship leader into the top 10 then. But Kip Stevens, second in the championship, only 19th. So I think another driver who'll be quite relieved, actually, to see the back of Laguna Seca is Jamie Ayres. It's been far from a perfect night for him, but he's actually still going to leave here with maybe even a slightly bigger championship lead than he had coming in.
Steve Hefford also had a very good evening, another good finish from him in 4th place. But as you say, as you said earlier, the championship still has a lot of turns to go. But the fact that Jamie Ayres was able to fight back and gain 29 places to finish 9th. Also, Stephen McAleer made up 21 places to finish in 3rd place. Also, further down the field, Peter Van Gool finished 16th, having made up 23 places. But that battle between Daniel Hunt and Matthew Emery, one of the highlights of the night. These drivers driving door to door. There was a lot of respect shown, even though there was the contact at the final corner. Matthew Emery letting Daniel Hunt take the victory, as you said, Andy, maybe thinking more about that there could be an issue with the stewards, with the push to pass, but Daniel Hunt takes victory. As you say, Daniel Hunt now a multiple winner. That's his 4th win of the season, and he's the second most winningest driver behind Jamie Ayres in the championship. season. Jamie Ayres with 6 wins and Daniel Hunt with 4. And Daniel Hunt can work on his consistency and putting the points finishes away and not retiring from the races. He could actually be a factor in the championship in later rounds because he's proven that he does have the pace.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, there's that many races still to go. It's a long old season, this, that there may even be drivers that we're not really counting as championship contenders right now who could get quicker as the year goes on and pull themselves into contention come the end of the season. It's going to be a fascinating ride. And who knows who's going to come out on top at the end of it. Brilliant racing tonight, though, all round, it has to be said. A few little incidents along the way, as you'd kind of expect, but generally a really high standard of driving. And that's what we want to see.
Yeah, as I say, we've had grids of over 40 drivers, and the British Sim Racers organisation's been running since 2011, 2012 sort of time. And they have been producing fantastic racing and races now for nearly 10 years, very strong grids as well. And British Sim Racers, as I say, one of the main league providers as such on the iRacing service, giving fantastic action. But as we see, it's a victory for Daniel Hunt with Matthew Emery relinquishing that win and finishing second. Stephen McAleer takes third from McCartney McAleer Racing. Steve Hefford. Adrian Hendy, a good 5th place finish for the Year 1 driver. Chris Knox in 6th for Double Clutch Racing. And Sam McAleer, a winner tonight in 7th place. 8th is James Sharp from Avano Racing. And James Sharp is silently pushing his way up in the championship table. He's had a win and a top 10 tonight. So another one on the move. And Jamie Ayres, fantastic drive in 9th place. We have in 10th place is Rob Graham winning the arm from Dale Bennison, who finished 11th. 12th was Carl Hardy, 13th and 3rd arm Joe McDonald. Vincenzo Amico 14th and Mikey Key in 15th. Peter Van Gool is in 16th, another big mover in that race, with Charles Cunningham 17th and James McRitchie or Asymmetric in 18th place. And rounding out the top 20 in 19th place is a driver who was second in the championship, Kip Stevens, and the AM championship leader, Mick Barry. Mick Barry losing a few more points to his rivals, but finishing in 20th, so getting points on the board. Andy Maxwell was 21st, so Aaron McGregor 22nd. Phil Reagan and Steve Cooley take 23rd and 24th, with Martin Sampson 25th. Alan Toon, the work guard by Result Clothing driver, in 26th. Roger Morton was 27th, with Graham Slack finishing in 28th after the early contact. Jason Wiley 29th, and Stuart McAleer, 1 lap down, will be a classified finisher in 30th. And those drivers who failed to finish are Ben Sharp, Ryan May, David Ward, Ryan Moles, Lewis Payne, Craig Jones, Michael Vortman, Ralph Cullinan, and also Steve Hansford and Nathan Davis. So another race of quite high attrition, but we have had 30 classified drivers finish this one, and we've had grids of over 40 tonight. As you see, darkness descends on WeatherTech Mazda Laguna Raceway, Seca Raceway. What's your highlight of the night been today, Andy, do you think?
Well, that's not easy, is it? Because there's been plenty. I mean, I loved watching that battle there in the final race between Daniel and Matthew. You know, that's what Mazda MX5 racing is about. Like I say, in the real world, I've covered the British MX5 championships extensively, and that's the kind of battling that we see week in, week out from those championships. You know, to and fro racing, and when the car in second gets through into the lead in some forms of racing, that'll be it. The battle will be over. That car's clearly quicker. It's going to disappear up the road. But not in MX5 racing, because the car in second place always has a chance with that slipstream to come back, and we saw the battle run right the way down to the last lap. And Daniel Hunt, you know, in fairness, could have rolled over and said, you know what, Matthew's been quicker than me all night. He's got the lead now. He's probably going to win it. I'm just going to take second. But he didn't. He kept fighting. He kept applying the pressure and eventually was able to find his way through. So that was probably my highlight of the night, mainly because it's the only thing I remember. It's been that action-packed. That's the most recent thing in my memory, but it was one heck of a battle.
Let's see if we have anyone who'd like to join us for an interview here on Year 1 Racing TV. If there's any feel free to pop in and have a chat with us about how you're tonight with some races. We have had 40 drivers. You've seen some 4 different winners as well. We've had James Sharp, Sam McAleer, Daniel Hunt, and Vincenzo Amico taking the victories. Vincenzo Amico not having the best of races in the third race or final race. Even he had the incident at the end of the second corner. And it doesn't look like at the moment we have anybody who would like to join us for an interview the moment. So it looks like that we will end the broadcast there. We'll just double check to make sure there is again, but yeah, it doesn't look like we do have anybody who would like to join us for an interview. So you've been watching Year One Racing TV in partnership with Alpha Live. I'm Dan Blake. Alongside me has been Andy McEwen with Graham Sessford producing. And the next rounds of this championships, round 21 to 24, comes from Road America next Tuesday. And that is going to be a fantastic weekend or fantastic meeting of racing. Road America produces, as you say, fantastic racing. With this big grid of MX5s, I think Road America, Andy, could produce some absolute fireworks.
And lots of slipstreaming opportunities. It's a fast track. It's a long track as well. Lots of overtaking chances too. So, yeah, I think we can expect more of the same really, really high-quality action in a week's time.
So, for me, Dan Blake, to say with Andy McEwen and Graham Sessford, we wish you all to keep safe during these times. And we'll see you next week here for more action from the BSR MX5 20 Pro Series Road America. Good night.